Okay, it is 6:30 and we're calling to order the zoning board of appeals regular meeting for Thursday, March 19th, 2026 at 6:30 PM. Okay, and in attendance, we have
Eric Napling is coordinator.
Kathleen Tracy.
Kayla Pearson.
Stephanie Mickle.
Amy Hewitt, Clark.
Nancy Hutchinson,
Kip Kotzen, Nick Fulton.
and just walking in the door.
Richard Mike Hillis.
Sylvia Rakowska, council.
Okay, great. And Russ Fogg is absent. So, before we start the public hearing, I'd just like to always remind applicants to facilitate an efficient review. Please present the evidence that an unusual and unnecessary hardship exists based on strict application of the zoning regulations due to some peculiar condition of the property itself, and if the condition does not generally affect other properties in the district. Whether any reduction in legal pre-existing nonconformity is proposed, the evidence that the variance requested of the minimum necessary to alleviate the unusual hardship and allow reasonable use of the property. The evidence that the variance requested are in harmony with the intent and purpose of the zoning regulations and the comprehensive plan of zoning. And for applications with the coastal site plan review application, please address the Connecticut DEP comments. For applications reviewed by the town engineer, please address his comments and his report. And for proposals within the conservation zone, please address the comments from the Connecticut River Gateway Commission. So the first case that we're going to hear is a continued case. It was continued from January and February public hearings. It's case 25-13C, 125 Shore Road, requesting variances for demolition of existing structures and construction of a new FEMA compliant dwelling, in-ground pool and detached garage within the Connecticut River and tidal water areas on the RU 40 lot in the AE, actually 11, flood zone, Thunder Mountain LLC present. So the members seated for this case are going to be the same members that were here present for both the January and the February hearings. That's myself, Kip Kotzen, Stephanie Mickle, Michaela Pearson, and Nick Fulton. And as previously noted, several variances are being requested, sections 4.3.1, tidal waters protections in the conservation zone. No building or other structure, including drainage structures, septic systems, and wells, shall extend within less than 100 feet of the mean high tide line as defined by the Connecticut General Statutes of the Connecticut River or any of its tributaries or associated wetlands. And 4.10.3 conservation zone requirements, Connecticut River setbacks. No building or other structure shall be constructed, reconstructed, enlarged, extended, or moved, or structurally altered within 100 feet of the coastal jurisdiction line as defined in the Connecticut General Statutes of the Connecticut River or any of its tributaries or associated wetlands. And I guess it's your turn now, Joe.
Good evening. For the record, Joe Wren, professional engineer of Indigo.
Yeah, I just forgot to say you submitted new plans as of March 13th.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And supplements thereafter as well. Of Indigo and Old Saybrook. Just some housekeeping items. You may or may not have this, but fresh off the press, we have an updated
Yes,
health approval.
have that. I don't know, it's on the website, but it says is approved, complies with requirements of section 19-13 D103 of the Connecticut Public Health Code.
Yes, just because of the changes to the site plan, we just got I know Nancy inquired about that, so we.
And it's
That's
for a
Cheryl
4-bedroom, single-family dwelling. I guess he wants to put that.
Put it over on this side.
Same as the one last time, it was just updated for the updated plans, that's all.
Okay, great.
And we're not labeling it because it's already
It was submitted ahead of time,
prior.
right, Eric? Yes. Okay. Yay.
And then we also submitted to you the revised first two sheets of the ZBA application
Yep.
because of the setbacks got better, more conforming.
Yep.
So we updated those numbers as well. So the applicant, one of which Michael Oster is with us this evening again. He's very intimately familiar with the design of the house. Since the architect can't be here, if there are any questions related to the actual house, he's the master. Also with us is John Cunningham, who is the landscape architect. Just to expand a little bit more on the proposed landscaping and the proposed improvements that we have. with the removal of invasives and also the, even though it's on the separate parcel, but owned by the same entity, 3 acres of the marsh, with the Phragmites removal, as we discussed last time as well.
I just want to make sure outside, so conditions of approval that were agreed to pass for follow up on buffer plantings for 3 to ensure establishments. That
Yes,
was one.
John talked about
Yeah,
that. He'll talk a little bit more
And then
about.
pursue application to be allowed to remove Phragmites in, it's 3 acres of wetlands? Is that what?
I don't know the exact acreage. You have a quote from all Habitat.
Okay, so remove Phragmites in wetlands on adjacent property to be purchased by applicants. Does that capture it?
The 3 acres is adjacent, and then it's about, I think an acre of ours is, maybe a quarter of this wetland. So
Okay,
it's a little bit more than 3 acres.
I just want to make sure we captured accurately what you agreed to last time. Okay,
Yeah, you can just say all Phragmites on the subject applicant's property.
okay.
So we don't have a number associated with it, if it's 3.1 or 3.7 or 2.8 or whatever, it's just the Phragmites in the marsh on the applicant's property. No one else's property. So we submitted those revised pages of the application, so you have that. The site plan was adjusted to the new reduced house footprint. What you don't see on here are the house volumes, and that's what we're going to talk most about, because when we left last time, that was the sticking point, the volume of the structure within the 100-foot setback. So we brought in a second architect and had them do a 3-dimensional volumetric analysis of the structure, specifically focused on the structure, the proposed structure that's within the 100-foot area. And we submitted those as well to you. So you should.
I think that hasn't gone to
copies of
everybody
those.
yet, but it was, I saw it submitted, I think it got forwarded to me.
Green sent it out.
Craig did send out to everybody? Okay, good.
Okay, so you have the digital images of that, and then we provided paper copies to the town as well. So without further ado, I think it's appropriate that we talk about the volume reductions because they're substantial. And we heard the Gateway Commission first, and then the first go around, and we shrunk it for the second go around, and now we're on our third go around. We even took a bigger bite out of it. So these analyses compare the last proposed when we presented to you this last month, compares that application to this newest application. We don't go back to the first one, but there's even more of a reduction from the first one. So this up here was the former scheme, the previous scheme. You can see the blocks of the house. There was this taller gable end piece here in the center, and then these taller pieces. And what happened is that just all came down and retracted backward. So you could see the new proposed scheme here. Pool is adjusted slightly. The biggest change is right in the center. That taller gable piece is now come down with a flat roof, and it's very squat, if you will. And then you can see that this has been reduced as well, that lake projecting in this direction. A point that Michael made to me before is that because we're in the flood zone, this bottom section here, which is not a crawl space, by the way, for flood reasons, the floor is above the elevation 12. There are no enclosed areas below this. It's just filled in, there's solid walls, there's no crawl space, there's no basement.
That's one of the questions I'm gonna have when we get to the plans, but there's foundation walls that go around.
Yes,
And that's
filled
filled,
in with dirt.
but it's not, but so the inside and the outside are 2 different levels.
Yes,
So how does that, don't you need, if you're in the AE flood zone, you need to have flood vents?
only if you have an enclosed space. There's no enclosed space that you can
But-
get into.
But that you get into, but the foundation walls are enclosing a space.
Mhm.
That doesn't count.
Only a space that you could enter into has to be vented. So this is just fill, it's just volume of fill.
Do we have a cubic yard amount for how much fill there is? I didn't see that in there.
No, but it's not required in a coastal environment. So compensatory storage is never something that's required in a coastal environment because it's attached to all the oceans in the whole world and it's infinitesimal. And an inland environment, if you have an inland flood zone along Connecticut River, you know, where it's not tidal, that's different. So like up in Middletown, if we do a project up in Middletown, we have to show, okay, if we're filling this much, then we're going to excavate this much. So we balance the amount in the flood zone. So down here on the shoreline, you very rarely see compensatory storage on any application because it's not required in the coastal flood zone.
I wasn't thinking so much compensatory storage. I thought that I haven't really seen a plan that looks like this one before. That's why I was questioning it.
Well, so some other plans are like this. You have your foundation wall, but then folks will add more fill on the outside to cover up that wall.
Or they
So
have a
we-
wall and then there's a floodgate between the inside and the outside.
Right. But if you had a floodgate here, it would just go into the dirt.
Right, there's no inside.
There's no inside.
Yeah.
It's just,
There's
it's
no
just
enclosed
raised
space.
there to get him out of the flood.
In the FEMA world, it's only the enclosed space. Any enclosed space that you could crawl into, get into, has to be vented out.
Okay, I just haven't seen
Right.
people fill this in so that feels higher than the outside area.
Well, it has to be at this level to be up above the flood level. So it's
Right.
FEMA.
Are you
required.
saying that people would generally bring in fill to hide the wall? Is it-
You would bring in more fill to hide the wall. That's your foundation wall. We all have it in all of our houses,
Yeah,
but it's covered up with dirt. So if we added dirt here, we'd be bringing in hundreds of more cubic yards of fill to cover that up. But they chose to just connect to the natural grade out there and not add additional fill.
okay.
And it doesn't have like, doesn't disrupt the hydrology because you're connected to the ocean and that little solid block of
It's infinitesimal.
impermeable stuff doesn't matter.
You can't measure the amount that it would
Right.
change. Because it's trillions and trillions and trillions of gallons of water.
The ocean, yeah.
And we're up close to the fringe of the flood zone too. We're up, elevation 8. Storm Sandy didn't even really brought the elevation of the water just about up to that level in this area. So you would need something bigger than Sandy to even get up into that area at those elevations. But yeah, it's similar to a building built on a slab where you backfill the foundation and then put the slab on and build your structure from there. Similar to that. It's just you're just able to see some of the wall because they're matching the existing contour of the ground and not adding more dirt.
So you're gonna say this FEMA compliant,
Mhm.
safe, same sentence, and doesn't have an impact, a negative environmental impact.
Correct. The engineer's letter, when he reviewed it for FEMA, he said two things. He said, one, it's good. It meets FEMA because all the floor levels are above 12, where it's supposed to be, the FEMA +1. And he did bring up about the crawl spaces in that letter. So now the crawl spaces are gone. There are no crawl spaces. So there's nothing to vent and nothing for water to get into that has to get back out of.
Well, there are crawl spaces, but they're above 12 feet.
There's no crawl space. There's no space below the floor level in the house.
I guess I'm gonna confuse you.
What may be confusing is there are different floor levels
Crawl space.
inside the house.
The lowest floor level is what? Floor five.
That's what I'm saying.
Mike,
So,
want to come up for something?
you're saying the crawl space is above 12 feet.
So Chris is still labeling crawl space, but that's not crawl space. That's just all filled in. So that's old.
You want to correct that on that? So we've got it documented?
We'll
Because there's
redline.
lots of crawl spaces. There's crawl spaces.
Well, because the natural grade is at 8 for most of it. And we're not
Right.
allowed to build a floor below 12. So,
Right.
so the lowest floor is 12. And so
Right.
between the natural grade and 12 is all filled solid.
So this is not
It's not a cross.
And there's no-
Shouldn't be labeled.
no slab here.
I was just making sure it was the updated plan.
This
Yeah,
is,
this is the floor and below there, this is all filled. There is no crawl space. We'll redline that. That's a Scrivener's error on the architect's part.
but it's in multiple spots.
Yeah, we'll scratch that.
Crawl space. That's why I was concerned about
Mhm.
what's going on here.
No, it's a good.
By the way, even the garage is at 12.
Yeah, I know, I can
That's
see
gonna be
that.
solid
I can
block.
see a 12. And then
12
there's,
inch.
there's crawl space above 12. So what you're saying is you're gonna fill that in too?
There could be crawl space above 12.
That's what I'm saying. So,
I'm just saying, I don't think there is, right? There's no crawl space, but I'm just saying it could be, it would still be FEMA compliant, wouldn't have to be vented if it was above 12. Anything at 12 or above doesn't have to be vented because the flood
do
will
you
never
need
get
this
to it.
space for like air conditioning ducts or anything?
From 11 to 12 and a half, I think there might be ducts, and you're not allowed to do anything below
12.
11. I thought- I
Below
thought-
12.
Below
Below 12.
Below
right.
12. It's the 11 plus the 1.
Yeah, the 11 plus the 1. And so the 1 would be where the duct would be. And so we brought the floor up to 12 and a half to allow 18 inches per duct.
Okay. So it's just, so the elevation is 12. This is filled up to 12, but then above that, there is a crawl space.
For ducts, yeah.
Yes, for things above 12. I just make sure we're all talking about the same thing.
So the difference is there's no crawl space below the flood.
That's what I'm saying.
There's no potentially habitable space
Not-
below
there's
the
no
flood that
crawl
has to be.
space.
So that would mean you don't have to have any venting from FEMA's perspective on that.
Correct. Because it's above,
12.
your flood level is here, the +1 is here. The flood water is never gonna make it up that high, so you
No
don't.
open accessible
Nothing
space below 12.
So just clarify, so it's not that there are no crawl spaces. It's that they're,
Below 12.
they're not below
None
12.
below 12.
Okay, because
That's
let's, there's so many things changing all the time. Want to make sure we know what we're talking about.
It's, so it's, I mean, do you really call that a crawl space? It's only what, like a 2-foot area?
It might be 3 feet.
Three.
You mean from 12 to the floor.
Yeah.
Bottom of the foundation.
But that would just be for conduits and.
So the,
Okay, so we're,
yeah, the
There are
floor is
spaces.
15.5, so it's 3.5 total. So and then you got your floor thickness. So yeah, it's a small, it's like a 2.5 foot space
okay,
for
You're
ducts.
correct, there are crawl spaces, but none below 12.
I was just trying to clarify. Yeah, okay.
So
There's
the
no
ones,
crawl
the
spaces.
ones that I were talking about is nothing that is FEMA would be interested in. So everything's above 12. Everything below 12 is filled in solid
Okay,
with dirt. So there's no way the water could get into any space and need to be vented to outside to any space.
and it's strong enough to take on waves and stuff.
It's not the V, it's not in the V zone. It's
I know,
the A
but V zone just means it's above 3-foot waves.
zone. V zone means velocity and waves. A zone is still water.
Not coastal AE zone. No,
This-
no,
this
it means it's.
Coastal AE is Limois you're talking about, and this is not Limois.
I think we need to clarify that.
If you have Jeff's letter, it probably says it on there. It's an AE flood zone.
Yeah.
There are no waves. It would have to be designed, for wave velocity if it was either a Limois or a V zone, and it's neither, it's AE zone. We have the note on our plan, but you can refer to the engineer's letter if you'd like.
We think we could look at for this.
AE 11 flood zone
Yeah,
on the 6 month.
a coastal A, it's a coastal AE zone, correct?
There's no difference. Coastal AE is Limois. Limited to moderate wave action.
Yes,
Limited.
so it means
It's not
less
Limois.
than 3-foot wave. I mean, if there's never
Right,
no
but this
wave.
is not Limois. Limois, so you have VE zone, that's the highest.
Yeah,
Then you have Limois, which is limited to moderate waves.
yeah.
That's not this. The next step down is we're straight AE, and that's what this.
I've never heard that metal one.
Limois,
We've always had just, You know.
AE,
yeah,
One or the other.
Yeah, Limois, so
that in-
it's tricky in a lot of different areas.
Sylvia, is that something we have?
It is something you have. I can go upstairs and sort of print a copy of this portion of the flood zone to see, yeah, where the Limois is.
Haven't come across it.
Yeah,
I,
it treats AE zones as VE for many of your flood zone regulation purposes. So if this were in the Limois, and I have to check if Joe's representing it, it's not. But if this were in the Limois, you would not be able to use structural fill here because you do have moderate wave action and they don't want the wave action to be eroding the fill that's been put in place. So again, it is a category that expands your high hazard flood zone further inland than is otherwise covered by your VE zone. And all along the Connecticut coastline, the Limois is a very big deal because again, it covers area that is only in the AE, but is still covered by your high hazard regulations. So if you look in your own zoning regulations, Limois is called out as a separate category for high hazard. So. Okay.
And when your engineer reviewed it, he would have pointed out that it was Limois and that it needed to be designed for V zone standards and it would have to be designed to be on piers instead of on the south.
Under these own standards, but we have two sets of regulations. There's the special flood hazard areas. And then VE zone is the coastal high hazard area. So anyway, I'm just trying to make sure we're talking about the same thing. Okay.
We are, and they would never, if this went for building permit and the building official reviews it, they would never be able to get a permit to build that if he knew it was in the wrong flood zone.
So what flood zone? So you're saying this is not in the coastal AE flood zone?
But it is in the AE. It's just not in the Limois portion of the AE, at least of course, according to Joe. Let me,
These are the limited, that's for the one it's
Yeah.
up to a foot and a half.
yeah,
Wait,
so
okay, that I understand. I didn't,
let me take a minute. I'm gonna go upstairs. I'm gonna print out the portion of this flood zone just so we can all see exactly where that Limois is here.
I just didn't hear it pronounced that way before.
Okay.
Limited moderate wave action.
Yes.
The acronym is Limois.
I just didn't heard that. We don't know that,
I'm surprised we haven't come across that yet. in
No.
that project.
but I know it's not.
Mostly like shorefront properties. This is too far inland, I think.
No, I know it's not. I know it's not Limois or limited moderate wave action because that's foot and a half waves and lower. But I thought that it is still a special flood hazard area.
It is,
Okay.
yeah, and it's designed accordingly. So all the floors are above the 12.
And you'd agree that the engineers that are looking at the plans when it's time to get building permits, we catch that and say, all right, can't do what you're asking.
Well, your engineer reviewed it already back in December, this application, and he didn't bring up Limois.
No, I wasn't trying to bring up Limois either. I was saying it's a coastal AE area, not.
I think you might be getting coastal AE and Limois interchanged, maybe. I mean, we're in a coastal environment. Yes, it's an AE zone. Yes, so you can kind of marry the two together, but this doesn't get designed for wave action for any
Okay,
purpose at all.
lower than foot and a half waves.
No waves. Not that it matters. It doesn't really matter because it doesn't change anything. And again, they still have to get a building permit after zoning approval. So,
The thing is, I've talked to the building inspector in the past before, and he says if someone comes to him with an architectural plan that's been certified by an architect and says it's FEMA compliant, then he just,
I would like to talk to him about that.
no, because I,
He has to review, make sure that it's consistent with FEMA regulations and the current building code. So he shouldn't rely on, whether it's my plan or someone else's plan, he shouldn't rely on those plans. He should do the research himself to make sure he's looking at the right flood zone.
I'm just
As
saying.
an architect could say, hey, it's in an AE 8 zone when it's in a VE 14 zone. He needs to know the difference.
Okay,
But any Limois project has to get designed to V zone standards. So I don't even really know why they have a Limois because they should just make it all V zone because you have to design to the same.
Yeah,
standard.
we're just determining limited moderate wave action. That's all I have.
So you have the LI for limited and then the M moderate
I know.
wave WA action.
Yeah.
But we're not in that zone where we're landward of the AEVE line. So we're an AE design project.
And you're within like 5 feet of the high velocity flood zone.
Where that corner of the house is close to the VE zone, but it's not in.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay. Move back to the volumes now. So this is the comparative analysis. This was before, this is after. You can see everything was brought down. So the big numbers here and to look at are prior to the last go around, we had 45,442 cubic feet of structure. Waterward of the 100-foot line. So the 100-foot line is represented by this kind of vertical curtain. The 50-foot line is represented by this blue vertical curtain. So again, we don't have anything in the 50. The area between the 50 and the 100 had that structure in there. And at the last meeting, the concern was the amount of structure volume in that zone. So with the new scheme, the roof lines brought down, dimensions shortened and retracted, pulled away from the 100-foot line. It went down to 31,476 cubic feet for a reduction of almost 14,000, a little bit more than 14,000 cubic feet, which represents about 31% reduction.
So what percentage of the dwelling is in the 100-foot setback? Because I calculated it's about 70%.
We spent a lot of time on just focusing between the 50 and the 100. So I don't think we know that number.
But it's less than half because the garage has more volume and the courtyard will be raised up with the soil. So I believe it's considerably less than half.
Well, I was just saying the dwelling itself, the detached garage, I wasn't counting, so. It looks like still more than half of it is.
Well, this one is taller, and over here, there are 2 floors which were brought back behind this line. So everything on this side of the line is 1 story or 1 level and flat roof, and brought approximately 4 feet down lower to the ground.
Okay.
So in terms of the volume, you'll see in the third image, which is from the water.
Yeah.
It looks very flat and very low, especially compared to how it was before. And I think that'll clarify what you're thinking, because then it looks like a sliver when you're looking from the water.
So did we lose some height?
Because
That's what it looks like.
everything was made flat and everything was
Right.
brought lower, at least 4 feet.
All right, so that's why we're talking about volume.
Yeah.
So at the last meeting, I'm not sure if you were here at the last.
Yeah,
meeting.
She
she
was
was.
here.
Mhm.
So at the last meeting, the biggest discussion and the biggest question was about the volume. We were talking a lot about the setbacks, which we updated on.
Make it smaller.
Right,
which we
right.
Listened to.
Yes.
It looks smaller too.
So smaller, retracted, but the big thing was the volume, the vertical volume. And we were asked to really look at that, quantify that, try to shrink that down as much as possible. And that's what they did here. Again, that's that 31% reduction. Now that doesn't go back to the first iteration that had even more volume in there. So it's probably closer to like a 40 or 50% reduction from what was initially proposed to you. But this just compares the latest plus the last version.
I guess the question still comes up, and we talked about this before, is like, if you didn't have this courtyard, wouldn't more of the dwelling just be outside of the 100-foot setback? But yes, it's smaller. I guess the other question was not just the volume, but in the setback, but like, could you just move the building out of the setback?
Well, then we wouldn't be able to fit the garage, and we wouldn't be able to fit the pool, and it would be close enough to the road. I was actually standing there just an hour ago,
Yeah.
admiring it, and the road is rather noisy, especially this time of year when you don't have as much greenery to
know.
block it. And so,
I can understand the desire, but I guess that it's still,
Right.
that's not really a hardship for the land itself.
Right. But you asked us to reduce it
Yeah.
as much as we can,
Yeah,
relook
yeah.
at it. 31% additional reduction, I think, is very substantial.
Yeah.
So I think we listened to Gateway, we listened to you both times. We came back and with a substantial reduction. This second sheet shows the perspective view of just of the heights itself, and you can see that all of those sections were substantially brought down to
Could you explain
salvage
the
all of
colors?
Can
I'm
you
not sure.
push that up so we can see the very top?
The top question.
Yeah, right there.
This is, so this beige and pink is the kind of 100-foot curtain anyway. So this is behind, that's the garage behind the curtain. So our focus is between the blue curtain and the pink curtain, right? So it's this gray area here, that was before. And then again, here are the two curtains. So you can just, behind the curtain, you can just see that peak of the garage. But this right here is so much more squat
And what's the
and
blue?
flat than this.
That's a 50-foot.
50-foot
I know, but where's the grade? Where's the, wait, what, the curtain you don't really see? What? You're saying, I'm not sure. We don't see through the curtain.
So in a section, you have to show the, we're showing the 50-foot line and the 100-foot line, but in
Yeah.
a section, you wouldn't see the line unless we make vertical. So
Right.
that's why I keep calling it a
I
curtain.
think
So
the top of blue is approximately the natural grade of the feet. You can
Okay.
see that there's that solid fill for the next 14 then.
Okay.
the other ones, these other ones show it better, but it's giving all the different perspective.
This is approximately from the water, so it's about a 15-degree angle.
Okay.
So if you're in the water in a kayak at a lower elevation and you're kind of looking up the slope to elevation 8 to where the house intersects, this is what was there before this volume. And again, from that perspective, from that angle, this is what you're seeing now. So roof lines really brought down. And then looking up that 8 feet, this is perspective of what you would see from there.
Can you
So
see the pool from the water?
you could see the pool from the other side. So
You see it from navigable water because it's on the north side.
So all these perspectives are looking at it right from basically the west to the east.
I see what you're
And
saying.
the pool is here, so you'd be looking at it
Behind the
from the
building.
big marsh here from north to south. So,
Okay.
and it's, you know, there's a little bit of slope there, but it's generally close to the elevation of the grade, so you can't. I mean, can you see the pool from the water? No, because it's flat and it's level with the ground. But it is there, and it is closer than 100 feet. And if you had a drone or you went up above there, you can look down and see it, but from the level of the water, you can't see the water.
And
So-
realistically, my read on that whole acreage there, I live sort of nearby, is nobody's headed up in that part of the marsh. I mean, you're going, a lot of traffic up and down Black Hall, but what you could notice of this property from Black Hall, probably nothing, but, or at least some insignificant amount of structure.
Yeah, there's an extent.
What, in order to see what the views you're showing, you got to take at most some small kayak or canoe up in there.
Say the same thing.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
you'd be
Which
on
we do,
foot more
which
like.
we do. We do kayak back there. I mean, the shape of it, it comes down here, but you have this big inlet here before the marsh. So we are on this side too.
Well, I'm not totally sure about that. If you look at the location plan, you can see the site and you can see the open water areas. And all the rest of that is marsh. So you're not throwing a kayak in the marsh, you're just going in these navigable water areas. So if you get up in this creek, yes, but then you're 1,000 feet away from the site. This is 1 inch equals 1,000 feet, and that's probably about an inch to the site there.
That's right, because.
And you're looking through very tall fragments.
Yeah, you wouldn't see it
Another
then.
important thing to know, Joe, if
Kayak.
I may, over here. So from the water you're looking up, the pool, the top of the pool is just below there. But this is not exactly what you see because of John's plantings in the landscape, which is around the entire perimeter and further out. So it's going to block a lot of this. I think you'll maybe see parts of it peeking through, but through the landscape, you'll really just see like a little, like a pancake on top.
Just to throw this conversation on the table, so
Yeah.
we're sure we're asking about varying regulations. Whenever I get that inner dialogue going, I want to consider what the intent of the regulation is. Why does that regulation exist? And does this in some ways violate the intent of the regulation? And for me, 100 foot, 50 foot. I mean, a lot of that seems to be couched in language around safety and environmental impact. I don't see either of those as being that significant in the plan you're showing me.
Yeah, I
And they
guess,
Improve the environmental impact.
Yeah,
Even DEP said that.
DEP said that. It's better for the environment if we let them do this,
Yes.
according to
guess what-
DEP.
I guess I'm worried about safety too, because that's where I might, because it's not just the coastal Connecticut River Gateway. It's also the coastal boundary. And we've had feedback in the past where the DEP's told us they don't like significant increases in living space in the flood zone. And then we're moving the building 50 feet closer to the VE flood zone. And you're only a few feet away from it. And it's like, it's also a question of safety. And is it the best, it's not just view, it's the whole plan. Flood zone, coastal boundary, and Connecticut River Gateway.
You don't have a FEMA compliant building there right now, though.
No,
That's
but
not
they have
very
to make
safe.
a FEMA
But it will
compliant.
Yeah, and I know, you're exactly right.
Yeah.
They're making a proposal. It's an idealized proposal. We could shape it. We could help them decide how to think about how to do this so that we do have the safety considerations high on our menu.
And I think the other thing too is it the minimum required to alleviate the hardship? And the hardship is there's a limited area for building on the lot, but it's still most of that space is used by a garage and a courtyard. And so the majority of the dwelling is in the setback 50 feet closer to the flood zone. And bringing in, excuse me?
Not a majority of the volume.
Because you changed the volume, I couldn't understand that, yeah.
Yeah, we've done what we've been asked to multiple times, and they've really taken tens of thousands of cubic feet of volume out of that to make it the minimum necessary. But the real crux.
Can I just mention one thing really quickly? The VE line, keep in mind, isn't that about 6 feet to 7 feet of elevation? And we're starting at 12. We're not allowed to start lower. So even though we are a little bit closer to it, we're quite a bit higher as well.
Mhm.
Sorry, Joe.
I think
Yeah,
the
so-
whole thing is fill right now anyway. I think it was built on fill. But I want to make a point on your application to describe the proposed reductions in legal pre-existing nonconformities. Perhaps the first two, but C through D, the setbacks along the marsh, you're comparing them to the shed. The shed is no longer there, so we're not allowed to even consider those.
No, we're allowed to consider the shed, but the point of the shed, 120 foot.
Once it's gone, it's gone. We're not to consider something that's gone.
I think they.
He has the right to
he has
rebuild
the
it,
right-
yes,
Is right to replace it.
replace it,
Yeah, like for like, he could put the same shed back.
right?
So how much compensation he should get for losing the shed is something for you to weigh. But, he does have the right theoretically, if to stop abandoning the use, to put the shed back where it was.
Even when it's gone, it's gone. I thought when it was gone, it was gone.
No.
The question, and Sylvia can sort of jump in here. But in recent years, there's a question of abandonment versus discontinuance. And if the use was never abandoned, it just discontinued, they have the right to resume it.
Unless they intend to abandon it.
So, and again, how long it's been gone, whether the site is, the area has been irrevocably committed to some other use, are all issues of intent of the property owner here. So it's hard to say for sure what the intent of the property owner was, and if it wasn't abandonment, the law is presently sort of leaning towards saying it was merely discontinued and can be resumed at a later date.
Discontinued, you can level it and take it away, and that's just called discontinuing.
That's what.
I agree with everything that Eric said.
That's what.
I just don't understand it all. To say, like, if you tear it down, it's no longer there.
You tear it down, but
That's
tearing
discontinued.
it down doesn't necessarily mean you don't intend to rebuild it. we'll tear it down because it's old, you don't like it, it's
Dangerous.
whatever, it's dangerous, you could tear it down. So unless you have an overt intent that should be an actual intent, it could be illustrated in a number of different ways. The other aspect of it is if the burden would be on the town or the person who's saying that it is abandoned to prove that it would be abandoned, not the other way around. So once you have something, so for example, if someone came in and said, I'm removing that shed to get something, they reduced the nonconformity by eliminating the shed, and in exchange for that, they got a variance, or they permanently put something else there, something like that, that would show that it's not going back, or they expressly say, I'm abandoning, then that's official. But you can't assume that because someone took it down, that they're permanently intending and never putting it back.
So it says on the plans, recently removed
Yeah,
shed,
That's all it is.
and there's no plan to build it back
There
on the
doesn't need to,
plans.
there doesn't need to be a
Doesn't.
plan. The assumption is that it's a constitutional right. If you have a nonconformity, you have a constitutional right. So absent you saying, I'm not going to have my constitutional right from this point forward, you have it. So the presumption is in favor of the constitutional right.
as long as it's a legal pre-existing non-conforming.
Yes, so.
And that is on the old assessor's card. It's not on the current assessor's card, but I did check. It was on the old. There was a permit for the old.
Even if it's there longer than 3 years, it's
Yeah.
existing non-conforming anyways.
Yeah.
And the owner of the property could go tomorrow and take out a permit and put it right back.
But I
There's
think,
nothing.
but I think Stephanie's right. If you want to walk through the reductions in non-conformity. So it's a street set line, sign, the street setback line,
Yep.
side setback. The rear setback line is mainly that 120 square foot shed, which is very much small. But I don't know.
You wouldn't allow us to put one there brand new without a variance.
No, I know. But I'm saying, but comparing
How big it is.
comparing the removal of that versus a big dwelling, it's,
Understood.
yeah.
I remember that argument.
Because this is mostly being carried not so much on a strict defining a hardship here. So the language about minimum necessary gets a little fuzzy around that. We're talking about compensating for the decrease in pre-existing nonconformities and generating a FEMA compliant outcome. Those are the two things that are in my head bouncing around loudest about
Right.
when I'm trying to
Yeah,
consider
the
this
house
as
is
a.
up here, so we're eliminating the front, we're eliminating the side, we're not just
Right.
making them better by a couple of inches, we're eliminating those. And then the other big piece of it that we mentioned before, all that pink area is currently asphalt between the 50 and the 100-foot area. And below that area is a septic system. And all of that is coming out. The septic system is outside the 100-foot area. We're going to a crushed stone driveway, so even though it's not technically a structure, and DEP said this in their letter too, removing those couple thousand square feet of asphalt and relocating the septic out are two big things that, yes, they're not structures, but for safety and health and the environment, you have to consider.
Yeah, and for what you're throwing in front of me, my review of it would be heavily weighted towards listening to what the DEP is saying about this, because that's when I'm just looking at it as a newbie, I'd say, okay, this is going to be the things you're asking. I'd be nervous that they would have a negative environmental impact, and professional evaluation says, no, it'd be good for the property.
Mhm.
So I'm going to sit there and think about it that way and see if, how that influences my vote.
The other
But I
thing,
guess that's the thing I keep coming back to. We keep saying that the DEP is very supportive of it, but I think when I read the DEP, it's like, they normally wouldn't
no,
approve something.
they said we normally wouldn't be in favor of
And I
a.
read it like
Yeah,
3 or
read it
4
out loud.
times. Okay. The applicant is requesting variances from the 100-foot tidal water protection area and the 100-foot Connecticut River setback in order to construct a new FEMA compliant 4-bedroom dwelling, detached garage, in-ground pool, patio, terrace, new well, and code compliant septic system. While we generally cannot support significant variances from coastal resource setbacks, in this case, the variances will increase the distance from the river over that which currently exists. And I'm saying the only thing that's closer to the river than this dwelling and this pool is that 120 square foot shed.
They're looking at the driveway because they hate impervious, and they're looking at the septic.
Yeah,
system
but how
as well.
much more impervious will we have? with the house now?
But
I mean,
that
we don't-
goes to drainage, so you have reduced runoff.
For 1.5 or whatever inches of rain, we could get
That's
2
what
inches of
DEP
rain.
requires.
I think our
Lots of rain.
our default setting here as members of the
Yeah.
board would be to have high consideration for the DEP's professional evaluation of this. And you're right, read through it tightly, make sure they're saying what he's presenting, they're saying, but if they are actually saying it's an overall net positive and they support this plan, I'm taking the environmental part and make it a positive rather than
So
a
the-
negative.
The DEP requirement for drainage is whatever your increase in impervious is, they want you to retain 1.3. There was 1 inch before. Recently, they increased that by 30% to 1.3 inches. So we have a dry well and we're bringing that excess impervious into that dry well. So we're retaining, and that's again, DEP reviewed that. We're retaining the excess impervious. And even more than that, we have even more than 1.3. It's probably closer to 1.6 or 2 of the extra inches of the 1.3 from the extra impervious area on the site. So we're consistent with actually extra than what the DEP requires for stormwater runoff. And the one thing that we haven't talked a lot about yet is this buffer that's elective. It's not required by anything. This landscape buffer, we measured at this time and it's over 10,000 square feet. So it's nearly a quarter acre that we're transforming lawn that can be fertilized and put pesticides on to this buffer that John Cunningham designed that has all native and indigenous plantings. I mean, how much of an improvement is just that over what's there today? Regardless, adding, a little bit of, this is dry laid stone patio. This is a pool that catches water. Any runoff, any excess rainwater that goes there goes to the dry well and goes into the ground. For this piece of the building that's in the 50 to 100 area, you have 10,000 square feet. The house is not even 4,000 total square feet on all floors. This is 10,000 square feet of new buffer that has native plantings. I mean, just that in itself, I think heavily offsets anything that's going on.
I guess I feel like I'm a little hesitant about the Connecticut DEP comments because this is a new reviewer. And for years, we had comments from Marcy Ballant, and she would tell us specifically that they don't like significant living area expansion in coastal flood zones. And that's why I'm coming at this from a safety perspective, the coastal area management plan. It's like,
So the house is 100% safe. It's 100% FEMA compliant.
and it's also 50 feet closer to the VE flood zone.
But 50 feet, if we have a storm that's up that high, you're not going to be living in the house at that time. Half of Old Lyme will be underwater.
All right, well, anyway, thank
The
you.
current house is below 12.
No, it's not.
Well, the
The floor is in the zone and then it has a basement as well, which is.
Basement had to be filled in.
Yeah, they gotta fill that.
Again, we know that house is not FEMA compliant, but the question is more to me is like, can you put a FEMA compliant building that's less intrusive on the 100-foot setback?
We've gone through this question multiple times and they've gone back to the table and drastically reduced what they had proposed. So, and they've spent hours and days and, bringing a second architect and doing this volumetric analysis and showing a 31%
You don't have to.
decrease in the volume. So we think that it's the smallest and most minimum that
well, and Joe,
they can live with and that would work for ZBA
Joe,
and
you showed that this middle drawing, forgive me. That's the height that you're allowed to build. So you could make a 3-story structure in that it's like a quarter of a circle. It's curved. It's not exactly a triangle. I think that's a lot more visible from everywhere, including the river. And that's how you would get the same amount of square footage if you did it there.
The other question I had is that this question that Eric's brought up as well. It's like the extent of fill that's being brought in. So this is that dangerous to get fill running the pool breaks or something else? The fill that gets washed into the wetlands.
So the pool is like your concrete foundation, right? So the pool, it's all reinforced concrete. It's
Yeah,
not
it
going to
is,
break
okay.
and flood. Any overflow goes to saltwater pool. Any overflow goes to the dry well. We have that connected through there, as well. So there's no discharge to the marsh. It'll all be professionally maintained, the pool. There's not going to be any back flushing of pool equipment into the marsh or anything like that. It's a self-contained saltwater pool. What's that?
The other way.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, we have that buffer all the way through there. Right now, everything just washes down the lawn, carries everything that's on the lawn with it. Creates that invasive band that's around the edge of the marsh. And again, and then the Phragmites after that. So any runoff that does make it down the hill will hit this, probably sit there, get treated with nutrient uptake in that 10,000 square feet before it could ever get to the marsh. Right now, the runoff goes unimpeded right directly into the marsh. This acts as kind of a speed bump, a very large speed bump, if you will, for the water to get down and just slow down to zero velocity and just kind of sit there and get treated in there before it ever could find its way into the marsh. Lots of times DEP recommends these type buffers. We've had to implement them. But right from the beginning, Michael will tell you that we advised him to do that because we knew it would be something that was looked at as a benefit, and they went over and above. What I even imagine, sometimes people will try to do like a 5-foot strip or just like a 10-foot linear strip and throw some grasses in there. But this is and John will talk about that in a couple of minutes, but it's a very intensive buffer, 10,000 square feet.
Okay, I have another question. How many bedrooms does this house have?
Or
It only has 2 listed on the architectural plans. It has 2 offices and a den.
Yeah, there are 2, and then on the second floor, which has 2 small rooms that are not within the 50 to 100 feet area. Those will be 2 studies that could double as bedrooms, but they won't have bathrooms.
So it is 4 bedrooms. Okay, so those,
per the health code.
Ledge Light treats certain rooms as bedrooms, even if they're not labeled as such. Ledge Light has its own categorization for what a bedroom would be, and therefore the septic would need to accommodate.
and so even though it's not marked as a bedroom, that is 4 bedrooms.
For Ledge Light purposes, it's considered a bedroom.
That helps clarify the confusion I had because I didn't see it labeled on the plans, but said that there were 4 bedrooms. Okay.
Well, I applaud you taking the volume down. My big concern though was the area, the ground area, like pulling it back. The front and side setback to me were not important. You said you didn't want it any closer to the road solely because of the noise. Which does not have anything to do with like any minimum incursion into the zone.
Because we didn't want it to be perfect. This just with some older relatives we have and some injuries we have. It would be stressful for us, but somebody could.
Okay.
So I'm not sure when the gateway 100-foot setback came into play. I didn't look that up in your regulations, but it's fairly recent, right? Probably in the past 15 years, maybe.
Yeah.
Or 20 years. So just use 15 years for an example. 20 years ago, someone could have came in and built this perfectly conforming, didn't even need a variance. So since then, these lines were added 1,500 feet, severely encumbered this property. So that's the real hardship. So the way I look at it is, yes, resolve a longstanding side yard setback issue, resolve and eliminate your front setback. And get into here, yes, these were implemented, but look at this property. It's before you were able to use all of this all the way up to the marsh. Now with these things implemented, now you only have this little triangle. And that's a classic case of a hardship that someone had this building 20, 30 years ago, they could have built all of this.
But they're buying this. This is their choice, whether
I know,
they
but
buy
the
this
land
or
was
not. I
encumbered.
think that's inconsequential.
It's actually not. It's actually a legal definition of a hardship.
Is that legal definition of hardship, Cecilia?
It's an encumbrance of the property.
It
over
is
time.
frequently articulated hardship.
That they've implemented new regulations that didn't exist before?
I'm sorry.
That they implemented new regulations that didn't exist before when they have a pre-existing use?
Yes, so the argument that Joe is making is a frequently utilized argument. And it's up to you to determine whether it floats. So.
Because The hardship is a judgment call at the end of the day.
I mean, it's a change in the regulations affected the land, right, in some negative way. So you've heard this argument many times before as well. So I'm not gonna say it isn't, and I'm not gonna say it is, it's sort of a mixed bag there. It's a justifiable argument, so I understand why Joe's making
I
it.
can understand that if it removes your ability to use the property, but there is an existing use of the property now. And there can continue to be, it's not like you
Well,
can't.
that would be a taking. If you eliminated the use, that would be a taking. I'm not saying it's a taking. I'm saying it really restricted this property from having all this area available. Now it just has this area. So it's a severe encumbrance to the property just because that regulation was implemented. And we see this a lot, all the gateway towns, all the 9 towns in the lower Connecticut Valley. There are some houses that are 200 years old and that sit in that buffer.
Yeah,
So
we
if
take
they
that
want to
into
do anything on the backside, Gateway still says no, but we can't move the house. We can't have the pool in front of the house, right, in the driveway. So it's it's a hard thing. So it does encumber a lot of properties. But I think with what we tried to do here from the beginning is we knew we were in the 100-foot area. We knew we had to come to you for a variance. We knew we had to go to Gateway, but we implemented all these other things to balance that. So we made a FEMA compliant house. We made the driveway pervious. We pulled the septic system out more than 100 feet away where it's only about 50 feet away or less now. Yes, those other structures were removed, but we added 10,000 square feet of newly planted area that you would never have there otherwise. You just have.
So I
maintained
guess there's
grass.
a question I have. So with the criteria that we must follow, what's the harmony with intent and purpose of zoning regulation, the comprehensive plan of zoning?
Mhm.
Okay. So doing something that's not allowed, but trying to compensate it with other benefits, is that kosher legally?
I mean, that's that's the definition of your reduction of nonconformities.
No, but it's not, it's not reducing nonconformities, like putting in buffers,
Right, like,
and the Phragmites.
Well,
It's a benefit to offset something that would not normally be allowed.
So I think it's important, you've got like a mixed bag of things here. So
Yes,
if Joe's sole reason for the variance was to be FEMA compliant, because it's gonna be FEMA compliant, the minimum necessary goes more into that. Right? So you're right to think that when you've got like a different combination of things that he's going here. So because we're talking about deep, and because we're talking about all the things that go in that, the buffer is relevant. I mean, the fact that deep normally rejects these kinds of things, but in this case, they're saying, but in this case is sort of emblematic of the whole process, right? They're taking a look at everything, the purpose of why they do it. They're not just taking the narrow view of what is the gross floor area, and if it's bigger, we don't like it. They're taking a broader view at the whole thing, a comprehensive look at the whole thing, which is essentially what you do as well. And how does it fit? So if they weren't doing all these other things, they probably would have given you the standard letter that you got. But it matters, right? Because it's going to the purpose that they're ultimately looking to serve. So if we're just talking about gross floor area, then that's that circumstance. If there are points where you could add so many positive things that it could alleviate the risk here. And you're not just adding pretty things and nice things that are helpful. From what I'm hearing from Deep is you're actually substantive material things that improve it. So it's not just, fancy bells and whistles, actual substantive material things that improve it, so much so that Deep is giving you a positive opinion.
Right. It's not ridiculous I know we're supposed to be focused fully on zoning, but Deeps is doing this kind of thing. Is you got impervious driveway, you've got a septic that is out in that zone. Pulling those out is reducing I don't know if we don't get to call them pre-existing non-conformities, or do we? I'm using the same logic, I'll be honest. There's features about the current state of this property that are suboptimal. You're saying we're gonna remove those features and make it a more attractive, more healthy, a better site. I'm paying attention to that. The DEP seem to be sponsoring that. I think
Yeah, a couple of, and the way we like to look at all projects are what's the overall comparison in the end to what you have today. And what we're presenting in front of you, we think, it's in our opinion that this is environmentally superior to what's there now. You have a FEMA compliant house, you have drainage that you don't have now, you have a septic out of the 100-foot, you have a pervious driveway from the big impervious driveway that you have there now. You have this 10,000 square foot native planted buffer that you don't have now. The grass goes right into the marsh. You have an applicant who is willing to remove all the invasives and check and maintain that for a minimum of 3 years. And then also, even though it can't be really part of the application, but he's also committed, if he owns the property, to remove the invasive Phragmites from 3 acres of marsh. So with all those things combined, we think that the overall plan is far superior than what's out there today.
Do you think that would help the natural and traditional river scene? Getting rid of all those invasives and putting in that
Yes.
buffer?
We balance that with the low pieces of the house, removing that volume out of there, keeping it close to the ground. Again, you're hundreds of yards from navigable water with Phragmites right now, and an increase in elevation. So we think that a boater out at water level would be hard pressed to know that this piece of the house that's 70 feet away is not 100 feet away. You can't tell the difference. And environmentally, it's superior. So for all of those reasons, we think it's far, far superior, and DEP agrees. And just because that analyst isn't someone we're familiar with doesn't mean they're 22 years old right out of college. I don't know who that person is, but that has to get reviewed and signed off by their supervisor. Any letter at DEP goes right up through the top and then comes down before it gets published. And that's why it takes 35 days.
I also appreciate that you did take to heart what we said at our last meeting, that we suggested that anything you could do to do some reductions and to make it sort of, closer to conforming. And I feel like you've really made an effort to do that. So
Thank you. And it's more than 30%. It's not like 10%
Yeah,
or
no,
3%.
it's
It's a significant change.
Yeah. And that's to be commended.
They prefer the last plan. And,
Well, of course.
but
And by the way, last one was reasonable, still half the height that you would be allowed to build originally. Now that's a third of the height. It's one story.
so with all of those things overall, with all that, it's our strong opinion that it's far superior than either what's there now or what someone else could propose on the site, even if they worked in the buildable area and built up 2.5 stories, 35 feet tall, see more bulk, see more height from the river. We think that this plan is as good as it can get.
So just for help for our discussion,
Mhm.
you very succinctly say, what is your hardship or legal alternative to hardship? Why you think this is the minimum or balance for things, how it's in alignment with intent of the utility regulations.
So can we got in the recording everything I just said? Just capture that, so I don't have to repeat it, because it's an overall improvement. And then we talked a lot about the hardship with the encumbrance of the property in there, and then overall adding all these extra things and getting a letter from DEP saying that they agree that this is environmentally.
That's more the balance. That's the balance that makes it more in line intent. To
Yes,
zoning
which-
regulations. But I want to get back to hardship. So the hardship is reductions in legal pre-existing nonconformity.
So we have it written here. So we'll just read what's in the application. So the variances are requested to allow the demolition of an existing non-conforming house and a non-conforming shed and gazebo were recently removed, and the construction of a new FEMA-compliant dwelling, in-ground pool, detached garage, and associated improvements, partially within the Connecticut River and tidal wetlands setbacks. All existing non-conforming yard setbacks will be eliminated. And all other zoning dimensional criteria, i.e. coverage, GFA, height, and yard setbacks will all be met. So that's part of it right there. We meet all the zoning dimensional setbacks except these kind of arbitrary 50 and 100-foot setbacks from the coastal jurisdiction line. We meet everything else, including right from the get-go. One of the goals was to keep the house less than 4,000 square feet. Not that we couldn't propose a house more than 4,000 square feet. We have plenty of room with the GFA percentage, but planning and zoning, that requires a special permit. So we figured, okay, go into Gateway, go in the ZBA. If we go in with a 5,000 square foot house, it just doesn't set off well, right?
Yeah,
So they kept it under 4,000 square feet.
Specifically, this concise hardship.
So strict application of the zoning regulation will result in unusual hardship. The subject property is an irregularly shaped lot, right? You have a triangle. It's not a square or rectangle. Is adjacent to extensive tidal wetlands along its longest side, approximately 425 feet of the property is adjacent to tidal wetlands with that coastal jurisdiction line. So if the coastal jurisdiction line was just over here, we would probably meet everything, but it follows that whole entire hypotenuse of the triangle, if you will. Due to our U40 yard setbacks combined with the Connecticut River and tidal water setbacks, approximately 94% of the lot is encumbered by restrictive setbacks. So there's 6% of the lot that's buildable without a variance.
Which is 2,600 square feet, 2,700 square.
I haven't done that number, but it's 6% of the buildable area, not over the total lot area. The existing house was built in 1926 and the lot was created prior to zoning regulations being adopted, including all the yard and the resource setbacks. And to supplement that, what I had said before is, say 20 years ago, early 2000s, you could build on all of that. I'm not even sure if the 50-foot setback, that was kind of before my time, but you could build on all of it. Now you could only build on that 6%. So everything you have has to be there. So it really restricted this property substantially by 80–90%.
Right, but that in itself, if as long as you have space left to build, then it's not that you can have a partial in the setback, but you're really mainly coming back to you have very little hardship. You have some hardship, but you're extending more than that hardship requires, but you're offsetting that with other benefits.
Yep, which I'll get into as we continue through this, since you asked. So the unusual hardship is not shared by others. The lot is unique to the irregular shape and proximity to extensive tidal wetlands, coupled with this extremely small area of conforming land, 6% outside of all yard and resource setbacks. The proposed reductions in legal pre-existing nonconformities, we talked about these earlier, but just to reiterate, the existing house is way up here now where it's supposed to be here. So there's a good portion of that house that's in the front yard setback that is completely eliminated. The side yard setback, the existing house and deck are here about halfway into the setback. That is completely eliminated. With this plan, we talked about the shed and the gazebo being within the 50 in the 100-foot areas, and also within the shed within the 35-foot property line. If you proposed, yes, it's a small shed, but if you propose that today, you would need a variance. If you propose this today, you would need a variance. So
Yep, I'm just saying, I'm just trying to balance the extent of the reductions in nonconformity with the extent of the proposed increases. Just
yes, so all
So
of that
to
together.
summarize it, your hardship is very limited building area on the lot, but you're not using most of that area for your dwelling. And small reductions in legal pre-existing nonconformity where you have extensive, but you're trying to offset all that with the alignment intent purpose of zoning regulations because of the additional benefits you're going to provide to the lot.
Correct. And I wouldn't consider these small eliminations of nonconformity. If we came in and proposed that to you, you would think they were.
And that
significant.
lower right-hand corners where the two setbacks meet, right? The side and the front setback.
Yeah.
Where you're building right up to the limit there.
All of this.
So all that disappeared and he has to build away from that. And he went into past the 50 on a chunk of it. The pool, I guess less impressed with because DEP didn't mind it so much.
Mhm.
It's prefers it to what's currently there. So I think from an environmental point of view, after the DEP report, I don't think it's a big consideration in my deliberations here. The safety part, they're the ones that are mostly managing the burden of that he's paying for this, he's going to live there. If it's ridiculous and, it does meet DEP, if it's sort of, that component of what might be the intention of the 50 and the 100 there. It's FEMA compliant at least.
As far as the visual
Safety
impact.
wise, I'm not greatly alarmed with what you're doing. It would be easier if you all fit in that little triangle, but that's a little triangle.
That's not the all fit in there, but most of it fit in there.
Sylvia, you did at our last meeting, you had a great description for me in hardship. I don't know if you remember this. You talked about hardship, how you end up in a situation where you pick and choose a hardship. You kind of touched on it just a moment ago.
Mhm.
Do you remember any of that dissertation you gave us on hardship? Because
Oh,
I remember it well. How it's down to balance the benefits with the costs. I remember.
Well, I think it came up in the context of Nancy was talking about the minimum necessary.
Mhm.
And I was cautioning about using that terminology because I think there's three different things going on here. So there's
Yes, that was
three
it, yes. You're good.
three things that are potentially independent justifications in generally speaking, for variances. Whether they are, in this case, I'm not opining, I'm just saying that generally these are categories that you can opine. And it came up in the context of whether the minimum necessary applies. So minimum necessary applies, when we're talking about FEMA, is it the minimum necessary to meet FEMA? So if we're talking about that as a sole decision, that is terminology that you should have in your head. When we're talking about hardship, minimum necessary also comes up in hardship. Minimum necessary doesn't come up in reductions in nonconformity. So because this is the mixed bag, we got to be a little careful with whether you're applying, is this the minimum necessary across the board? Because Joe's offering different reasons and different combinations. So it gets complicated.
But in the past, you've said reductions in legal pre-existing nonconformity. Is there a net reduction?
So, and I think Joe has acknowledged this. It's up to you to determine whether or not a net reduction, generally speaking, so not in the sense of quantity necessarily, right? It's a generally overall because, it's not apples to apples that we're comparing. So generally overall. So the courts essentially have said that you balance it and they give some discretion to the board to balance all of those things. Because just reducing 5 feet here and gaining 5 feet here may not be the equivalent depending on what you're doing. So in this circumstance, and again, Joe's tackled that, and you're absolutely right that whether you're eliminating the front setback, is that sufficient enough to justify some of the others? That is entirely within your discretion. That's not a yes or a no answer. That's really where you're weighing it. In this case, you're weighing it in addition to the regular stuff, the setback, the trade-offs, those kinds of things. In addition, you're weighing the environmental context, the deep letter, all of those things in combination. So I understand you want to sort of break up the hardship with is it consistent with the comprehensive plan of zoning? And is it, those things all sort of get mashed up into the same bag in this particular case. Because they go to the purpose and when I say the word material, I say they're not just, it's not just a prettier application. It's not just or proposal. It's not just a more aesthetically pleasing proposal. What you're hearing from DEEP is from a material, the purpose of that DEEP serves, right? Why we have these regulations, why we have these setbacks. They're for a purpose. They're not just an arbitrary line that you just draw for ha-has. They serve a purpose, right? So when DEEP's looking back and saying, what is my purpose? They're less looking at the technicalities and more looking at the general overall purpose. So what I'm suggesting to you is in this application, what Joe is offering you is some material, substantive things that force you to look at what is the purpose as opposed to the technicality. Not diminishing the regulations as technicality, but just to give you the juxtaposition between the two.
That's helpful.
One other point too. So say if, you know, the house and the patio and the pools, just say, I don't know what the exact number is, but say if that was like 2,500 square feet, okay? We're taking out 2,000 square feet of driveway in that buffer. We're putting dry laid patio back where the water can absorb into the ground. Both of these are dry laid. Yes, we do have some roof in there. We're providing drainage for that roof. And then the biggest argument here is that if we had, again, assume that 2,500 square feet, we're improving this area that's most sensitive and closest to the marsh, 10,000 square feet of that. So 4 times the amount, 4 or 5 times the amount, and we're improving that buffer from a straight lawn that gets fertilizer and pesticide to an indigenous buffer with real plantings that can provide habitat. There's nothing there now. It's just grass. It's maintained grass. So we keep going back about the building in here, and last time was specifically, we talked about the dimensional increases that we were making, and originally the closest thing was like 54 feet or something, and now it's like, I think the pool corner is like 60 and the house is like 68 or 70 feet. So we've retracted a lot of that, but the focus last time was the building volume. Now you don't have any more 2-story volumes in the 100-foot area. Your only 2-story volumes are outside the 100-foot area in that buildable triangle. So we've kept the bulk, the major bulk of the building outside of the 100 feet for the purpose and the intent of the regulation. But that balance in the buffer is really, we don't talk about it a lot, but that landscape buffer is substantial. There's zero habitat for birds and owls and mammals at all going the grass right into the marsh, and now they have that. They have shade cover, they have food, they have leaves and branches, and could actually make habitat there versus what's there today.
Okay.
And then the Phragmites and the marsh. So the last thing, just to answer Nancy's last question, is the last piece of this gets into the purpose and intent of the OLAM regulations and not adversely affect the comprehensive plan of zoning. So we have FEMA compliance, right? The house is not FEMA compliant right now for many reasons. It's not zoning compliant for many reasons. The new house is fully FEMA compliant, health code compliance. So all of that septic system that doesn't meet today's health code is down in this area. Now it's up here. We have health approval, full health compliance there. All the building, fire, and safety codes will be met with the new structures. The structure that's 100 years old does not meet building, fire, and safety codes. Enhancements.
Comfortable with a condition of approval being fully FEMA compliant?
It already is, so sure.
I know, I'm just saying, but in case there's some, I didn't see anything certified on the architectural plans to say it's certified that it's compliant. So it has to be reviewed by either an engineer or a building
official.
inspector.
Yeah, you can't get a building permit.
Yeah.
I know, but I'm saying you don't even want to put on the land use records that you have this variance unless it's been shown to be FEMA compliant. So you're fine with that.
And I just want to have a quick editorial comment about what our board's done. I think our board's really hard working. We're trying to do the right things here.
Mhm.
And I think that a lot of the hesitancy here is because we give a damn about what's going on, and we pulled you away from an earlier plan that probably wasn't as good for the property and the town in general as the current plan. And that's because a bunch of people stood up and said, hey, let's be careful and cautious and think about what we can do within this plan to give the best outcome for the owner and for the plan for the town.
Correct. And you have an applicant who went to Gateway, who heard Gateway, who's gone to you 3 times now, and heard you and listened and really pulled down those substantial differences
Yeah.
in the building
That was
shape.
the other
and size.
thing too, is because the Gateway, we talked about this last time, the Gateway does not like this, but they haven't seen the newer plan.
They don't like anything in the 100-foot line.
Yeah,
So
they-
even if it was 1 foot tall in the 100-foot line, they still would say no.
Exactly.
So if they had to choose, they would like this better because it's less volume. And it's less height in that 100-foot zone, but it's still structure in the 100-foot zone. So,
And I think they also mentioned something about view of what, glass, light pollution or not illumination, I don't know,
yeah,
something.
so we discussed that last time. So non-reflective glass on the backside of the house.
Where does it say that in the plans? Or just say make that a condition of approval?
You can make that a condition of approval. I don't know if it made
Okay,
it on
I
this
just,
plan.
I don't.
No, this is all recent.
Yeah, I mean, we're all trying to work together to try and make sure the outcome's sort of optimal,
Catching that.
however you want to
Yeah.
term that.
But all those things that we've said, it's fine to put that as a condition because we would do that anyway, including the Phragmites for the additional 3 acres.
Right. We talked about that last time. That was something that was there.
I know we did talk about some of that stuff with Chris. I don't know if it ended up making it.
I
Making
didn't
it
see
on
anything
here.
specific.
So yes, non-reflective glass, so the birds don't see themselves and crash into the glass. And then all the light, we already said this at the last meetings, but the lighting will be minimum needed for safety and security.
And it's all dark sky compliant.
And all dark
I
sky
actually
compliant,
saw
all
that,
with
yeah.
tops, all shining down.
That's-
No
that's
big
great.
spotlights shining out to the river.
Yeah, I don't know if that's written or if that's called out specifically in the plan, but as a condition of approval, we have that.
Okay, let's make sure. Yeah, okay. We have a great clip. So glad.
Just
Good job.
just to finish out those things to get them the record, even though they're in here. So we talked about building fire safety code and then enhancements to stormwater runoff volume, quality and landscaping diversity, which we talked a lot about tonight. Elimination and reduction of several existing zoning nonconformities, specifically side and front yard elimination of those. And then enhancement of subject property value of surrounding property. So all of those things mentioned are consistent with the plan of zoning and the purpose and intent of zoning regulations.
The only last question I have then is just the extent of the fill that's being put on the site. There's no way that fill can be washed into the wetlands. Because it's surrounded by all structures.
It's
It'll have retaining.
so there's no fill outside of this footprint, right? So that's what we didn't want to do. So
There's fill around the pool though.
yeah, there's fill around the pool that's necessary there. There's a substantial distance. And then again, we have this 10,000 square feet of buffer. That's like a speed bump. I like to.
Well,
It's not really, it's an inverted. A swale is kind of like a stream, right? This is like a speed bump. So it'll be, just 3-4 inches higher than the grass, right? But it's a speed bump. So the water accumulates, any runoff accumulates along the edge and it has to infiltrate through that native buffer before it ever could hit the marsh. Right now, it's unimpeded right into the marsh.
And fertilizer causes red tide and other
Yeah.
things. That's just what's up.
Feeds the Phragmites too.
And you've already gotten Leadville Health Department approval. So you don't-
And the update that I gave you earlier.
Yeah. You don't need to take that as a condition.
So I think that's everything. I think we've answered all the questions. John Cunningham is here. He did make the trip up from Madison. Do you have any questions related to
You
the?
did a good job presenting last time.
Thank you. There's no real changes to the buffer. I just did drop the new development on my plan, but the buffer remains the same in the planting, so nothing's changed in the
Oh, I
landscape.
see. You have a plan that shows the new structure.
Yes.
Okay,
We submitted that.
yeah.
We submitted that.
We've only seen little tiny versions of it so far. Okay, that's good.
and just with you two standing here, what's going to regrow where the Phragmites are? Are you trying to establish cattail marshes again?
That's a good
Yeah.
question. So, someone on the board asked about, does the Phragmites look? I don't think they look good. I think they block a lot of view corridor into the marsh.
Yep.
In Madison, we're doing it for general's residence. We put this same buffer in.
You might have to come closer. Can- Yeah.
Once again, John Cunningham, under TEC Landscape Design. That's a good question. So if you had Phragmites and it's 8 feet tall,
Yeah, you can't.
10
see
feet
over.
tall.
Yeah.
Here's general's residence. They can't see the marsh. The stuff that's behind the Phragmites is terrific. It's all different native grasses. They grow right on the edge. That's what looks really good. I have private clients, just like Michael's gonna have, that want to look out into the marsh and not be blocked by that Phragmites.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
because that's happened in Old Lyme a bunch. The Duck River Cemetery used to be all cattails. You could look up in there and see the bridge and it was
Yeah.
beautiful. Behind Chapman Shopping Center, you could see all the waterways that infiltrated that area there. Now the Phragmites 10 feet tall. You can't see anything except for that initial image of the wall of Phragmites that's blocking your view.
Correct. And our Phragmites proposals for 3 years, that's they, all habitat people, they're state licensed also, just so you know. They've asked if we wanted them to eliminate other invasives. Okay, there's nothing poisonous about an invasive, but I think everyone would rather see a native piece of marsh material growing than Japanese knotweed.
That's the other
We're gonna
monster.
Remove it from land on what we can, and then all habitat will take it from there with the Phragmites, which we cannot physically remove. That has to be done by a state licensed
Yep.
agency, and that's all habitat.
Okay,
And all of that is 3 years. So
Yeah.
the Phragmite is a 3-year process, right? Remove it, come back,
Yeah, we'd,
knocking it down.
and we're welcome to say it's a 3-year Phragmites removal that we're originally gonna sign on to. It might be a proposal that Michael and his wife might want to move on for 20 years. Because they might not like the Phragmites. Phragmites will come back in if you stop the proposal or if you stop
Yeah.
treating, okay? We'd like to put in the buffer planning. I'd love to do the buffer planning. If the timing is right, you obviously have to put in the larger pieces of material before you put in the smaller, the plugs and everything else. The plugs should go in the spring. It might be like larger material in the fall and plugs in the spring, which I think the town would be okay with that. We also said on record that we're going to use an all organic fertilizer. We're not going to bring a lot of chemical into this property. So we've already said that in record at the last meeting.
I don't think we can make that a condition of approval.
Sure you can.
No, because it's gotta be forever then, so
Yeah.
someone
Well,
to.
No, you can make, I
You
mean,
just say a minimum of 3 years.
If they
Yeah,
are
or a
proposing a
minimum of
3-year plan, then for that 3-year period, you can
Yeah.
hold them to that commitment for that period. And
we're
that's,
all organic at the residence of Madison or like the general's residence. We can't use any chemicals.
Okay, but that's because it has a 3-year limit on it. I'm just saying, yeah.
Okay.
Condition of approval. So I just want to make sure that before we go into a discussion, we have the exact wording that would be appropriate for a potential condition of approval. So you want to try to capture it?
So your conditions of approval you've agreed upon are the structure must be fully FEMA compliant. Non-reflective glass will be installed and the lighting must be dark sky friendly, dark sky compliant. That's it.
And then also we talked about follow up on buffer plantings for 3 years to ensure established. And then we can't say that you take out the Phragmites. My understanding is that we said the application should be allowed to remove Phragmites in wetlands owned by the applicant.
Is that state or federal regulation that limits your ability to do that?
Well, you have to have a state license to eliminate Phragmites with a certain chemical, which all habitat has. I'm not exactly sure where Michael's property goes into the marsh. I'm not sure how far out it is.
It goes,
That's what I mean.
100.
So he can hire, I believe, all habitat. I'm not an expert in it. I think to remove it. And I'm hoping the Phragmites would not get to the limit of his property. So they'd be removing it on his property.
yeah, part of what we discussed last time was that some of this is below the coastal jurisdiction line, and being below the coastal jurisdiction line, it's sort of out of our jurisdiction here. It's in DEP's jurisdiction at that point in time. So you're not able to bind DEP to what they're able to approve. Ultimately, again, they're willing to make that commitment to you. You can write it into your record here that they will take best efforts to get DEP approval to remove the Phragmites. That's about as best as you're going to be able to do.
And
So
we,
I want to make sure we capture the wording while we're still discussing. So make best efforts to remove Phragmites on property.
Well, to
over a
obtain,
period of 3 years.
yeah, to obtain necessary approvals to remediate the Phragmites.
I would also add that you're going to remove invasives for 3 years. My company's been out tagging at a big project in Guilford. We're tagging, it's inland wetlands, but we're tagging invasives that have moved back in.
He's not weed or.
So they're in there right now, taking everything out. So we do the same thing here. Our buffer planning, we don't want invasives coming back in. We'd remove them.
Okay, so that's good, but let's make sure Amy has exactly what you
Sure.
want to say.
The property does go all the way to the water.
Yes, yeah.
So Eric, what you said was make best effort to obtain necessary approval to remove Phragmites.
And invasive species.
And other invasive species.
And other invasive species. Yes, just to add that.
For 3 years.
Other invasive
From
species.
the
3 years,
adjacent tidal
yep.
marsh owned by the applicant.
Yeah.
I think we should specify.
Well, we probably.
Let her finish that before we start
Yeah,
talking.
yeah, add that.
Okay,
So we don't
all
wanna
right,
be
It's
so,
hard when
all the
someone talks at
Phragmites
once.
black all over.
In Connecticut.
Okay, let Amy say what she's got.
okay, feeling a lot of pressure to get this right. All right. So we've said, make best effort to obtain necessary approval to remove the Phragmites and other invasive species from the adjacent tidal marsh owned by the applicant for 3 years.
Yeah.
You can put a minimum of 3 years.
For a minimum of 3 years. Okay.
Eric, you're the one who would have to enforce it. Are you?
Yeah, I mean, am I going to go out there and sort of inspect the fertilizer before it goes in? Probably not. But certainly to the extent that they are making this commitment, if I receive word that for whatever reason that they are not meeting it, I can certainly ask for verification of this sort of thing. So I'm comfortable with the language as drafted. So I think we're as good as we're going to get.
And I saw, I mean, it says, that they will go for the approval. It doesn't say that they will do it. Does that, I don't know.
think-
I don't know, I'm
I-
saying,
I
I will try to get a loan. I will absolutely try to get that loan. Well, does it mean I'll take out the loan?
It's a reasonable point to seek and procure. So you
So-
best efforts to get it, not just to apply. That's-
Thank
Well, okay, that's fine. If the property owner is willing to commit to that, that's fine.
So get implement and
Yeah, and
To
implement,
apply and.
implement.
John, what would you say, implement or procure?
Yeah,
or secure?
we go through this in all the towns. So we presented the plan. I'm just staying with the planting. Town of Madison, the town of Guilford, the town of Branford, Stony Creek, they go and check that the property's been planted
Mhm.
the way that we present.
So I will
Which is
definitely do
what
that.
Eric
we're
would
trying
do.
to capture in the wording
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
that it's to best effort to obtain approval and implement.
Yes,
Yeah. So-
Yes, yeah.
And realistically, it's not because
And
we're forcing you to do that. You volunteered to do that because it improves your view. You don't have that 10-foot wall.
Because we'll make best efforts to get it, to procure it, to
Right.
complete it.
Yeah,
That's why we're saying that.
yeah,
Just the only caveat is they have to have the approvals in order to do it.
Right.
So
right.
if their best effort doesn't get those approvals, then they can't do the work. So as
All
long
right,
as
could you
that's.
read it one more time? Make best effort to apply, obtain approval and implement plan to remove Phragmites and other invasive species from the adjacent tidal marsh owned by the applicant for a minimum of 3 years.
So, good. Good.
Sounds good. I don't know if Kip's question got answered.
Which was,
The one about, would you? you're
what's
gonna
going back in?
Pull out and, what's going back in, right? You didn't get it answered.
Yeah, because they
I
did it
missed
by
that,
Great
right?
Island Marsh along 156. And there was a year where there was a comeback of cattails, and I just about lost my mind. I was so happy about that. You lost that huge wall of, because cattails are good for muskrats, ducks, and everything. You really liven up a marsh once you've taken it. I mean, Phragmites are almost like a ecological.
so, yeah, so what
You
is
know,
happening? Just take it out and it just naturally
Desert.
comes back, or you just?
No, that's what's on the plan
Yeah.
list.
Oh, but no, she's
No,
not
the
that.
Phragmites.
Phragmites
Oh,
part.
the native grasses that are in the marsh, I'm a kayaker also, you take the kayak out into that marsh, you're gonna see 4 or 5 different smaller grasses that are growing closer to the water. Frag doesn't go all the way out there. The frag stays at the buffer.
So I guess the
Right.
answer to the question is, once you
Other-
take away, it'll happen.
Yes, other native grasses
Oh,
will
Have a
come back.
chance to reestablish.
because.
Yes.
Okay.
Because the Phragmites blocks everything out right
Yes,
now.
correct.
Takes all the
Okay.
nutrients.
Right.
Mhm.
So all the new grasses will be able to thrive, reseed, and then replant themselves. We're not replanting anything in the marsh.
No.
We're just letting the native.
Naturally reestablish.
That's why you remove invasives, and you hope that natural material moves back.
Okay, I'm just thinking about time frames here. Eric, did you have any other questions or concerns about the application that you think we should discuss?
No, I mean, I think you've heard as much as you need to hear, and I think you're in the best position you can be to make a decision on it. I don't have any further comments at this time.
Nancy, one final thing I'd like to add, I just ask John. So when John goes out and inspects every 3 years to make sure things are healthy, the invasives aren't moving in, he'll provide a report to Eric once a year for those 3 years. So Eric knows he has a record of what's going on, and he also has confirmation that that did happen.
So I want to add to and provide a annual report,
Provide annual report.
Yes.
provide annual reports.
And you could do that for the minimum of 3 years.
That's helpful. Thank you.
You would do that.
Yeah, I guess I can see a lot of pros and cons. I think I'm still a little scared about some of that fill right next to the B's flood zone, but I think you say it's not gonna be washed away because you have the buffer.
Well, if you think about it, any kind of fill that's being brought in for the house or the pool, or the terrace or anything, it's gonna be contained. Okay, if there is an area where it's not contained by construction, it can't be left as fill or soil. Cannot leave undisturbed soil to erode. So it is gonna, we haven't even started working on the house yet. It's gonna have a ground cover or some form of plant material that's not gonna allow any erosion. So I could say right here tonight, there's not gonna be any erosion,
Okay, because
because it's all gonna be taken care of.
this part along here, right in front of the pool area is part that it's like a couple feet of fill right here that nothing seems to be containing it.
That's probably gonna be some low to medium, depending on how tall I want it to get, but some form of plant material that's gonna have root mass, that's gonna not allow any erosion, but it
Okay.
will not be just soil.
Okay, so it's not marked here, but that's.
It's not marked because I haven't started working on the house yet, but there's not gonna be any undisturbed area that would erode on this property.
It's essential there'll be a lawn there or something.
Yes, there might be some grass,
Right.
which is a ground cover.
That's what John.
Which is what's currently there, and there's a
Yes.
septic
Correct.
system underneath it. If that eroded away, if the grass eroded away there,
I have-
what about the septic
No,
system?
it's just
in
because
that
it's like
same
on the
location.
outside there. Here, all this fill is sort of blocked by other structures, but that fill is sort of like exposed.
Yeah, that's only like 1.5 feet of fill, right? It goes from like elevation 8 to 9.5. And elevation 8 is higher than where Storm Sandy got in this area. So it would have
Okay.
to be a monumental storm that we haven't had in almost 15 years to get up to that height.
As long as it's your house, your safety, your
Oh,
pool,
yeah.
you're comfortable with that.
These are good
Issue.
questions.
Okay,
The pool wall will probably be thicker than the foundation wall of the house.
That's what I
so
said.
that's what I didn't
Reinforced,
realize.
right?
Yeah.
With all
On
the,
that pool,
yeah, with all
As the
the weight
pools-
of the water in there pushing out.
I just finished one in a big velocity zone in Madison. The gunite pool sits on top of the ground. The wall of the pool is 14 inches thick. So it's not going. anywhere.
Okay,
Now we're building walls and bringing fill back in. Same thing we're kind of doing here, but all the material is contained.
okay.
Okay.
All right, I'm thinking the course of time here.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any other questions or things that they want to discuss before someone proposes that we close the public hearing for
I
case?
had one
Oh,
question.
go ahead.
When you were talking about the first two proposals, you had an AC pad, and the third proposal, you have no distance to an AC pad.
That's
Was that
because
an
we moved it
oversight?
outside of the 100
It's,
foot.
is that why?
Yeah, we
Great.
notched out the house right outside the 100-foot line.
Here
and
now.
put the AC.
Thanks.
So that's.
That's a good detail.
Right.
No, that's.
Oh, right, thank you. Amy reminded me, would anyone like to open it for public comment? I always forget that.
I whispered it, so you didn't have to.
But you deserve the credit because I always forget to.
That was good.
Would anybody like to speak in favor of this application? Oppose this application or just comment on this application? Hearing no public comment.
I'd like to speak in favor.
All right, so would anybody like to make a motion to close the public hearing for case 25-13?
So moved.
Okay. Who was that?
Michaela.
Michaela.
Second.
Stephanie. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None, abstaining, none. Motion passed unanimously 5-0. Okay, now the public hearing is closed and only voting members may participate in deliberations. no new information may be introduced after the close of the public hearing, but members may able to ask our attorney and our CEO for procedural questions. And before we get into making a motion, we'd like to discuss, the board discuss the evidence presented during the public hearing, potential conditions of approval agreed by the applicant, and potential reasons for granting or denying the variance prior to making a motion. So I think we've discussed this quite a bit during the meeting, but we need to concisely summarize this. I think in terms of the unusual hardship, I heard that there was a very limited building area on the property because of the setback encumbrances. And there is some reductions in legal pre-existing nonconformity that are being proposed. That capture the hardship, I think.
I think going back to something that Sylvia was saying earlier, that DEP has weighed in saying that they believe that ecologically that they are improving the site and that weighs towards granting it here, even though it is in the buffer area they usually try and protect.
Yeah, no, we're gonna get there. I just have about the hardship first. We have a list.
Because those are the two conflicting sort of things that are
Yeah.
bouncing around in my mind when we're talking about going past the 50 out toward the 100, and you're saying, all right, I'm gonna pass the 100 out toward the 50, and you're saying, all right, I'm nervous if DEP thinks this is bad. And they
Right.
don't seem to, so.
Right, we would need to make a motion as part of our motion that addresses the coastal review plan, but I will cut to that later. So I think you just mentioned to summarize a thing of why we think it's in harmony with intent, purpose of zoning regulations. Because it's supported by DEP. They've provided offsetting benefits that will provide, that they're providing offsetting benefits.
Yeah,
Which is
I
the-
think you have
the
a safer building
Yeah,
overall. It's FEMA compliant, safer building.
right, biggest list, you can type it.
You can keep going.
Okay.
And ecologically, it's an improvement on what the property does to the surrounding environment.
And the volunteered improvements that are related to the neighboring property as well. The agreed conditions of approval. When you finish that,
Yep, the conditions of approval, structure must be fully FEMA compliant, non-reflective glass to be installed, lighting must be dark sky friendly or compliant. There will be a follow-up on buffer plantings for 3 years to ensure they are established. You're going to make the best effort to obtain approval and implement plan to remove Phragmites and other invasive species from the adjacent tidal marsh owned by the applicant for a minimum of 3 years. And a plantings inspection annual report will be provided to the ZEO for a minimum of 3 years.
they captured that.
Yeah, and I think I want to make sure we're not minimizing the idea that we've established a FEMA compliant structure when we're done. And
Oh, that
that's
was what we had. That was
right. That's always like a major motivator for me when I'm looking at these.
That was one of the other conditions of approvals is.
Everybody was very diligent about saying, all right, legally that should be minimum,
Yeah,
but we're looking at the rest of the offsets about whether it's good for the property or not. It's good for
we
safety.
need to add that additional condition of approval, which is the structure to be FEMA compliant.
That's the first point. Structure must be fully FEMA
Oh, I'm
compliant.
sorry. Miss Jones.
How
right.
did you refer to the annual report?
I said the plantings inspection annual report will be provided to ZEO for a minimum of 3 years. I wasn't really sure what to call it. So if you have better wording.
My understanding, it was more intended for the Phragmite treatments and that's an evolutionary kind of thing as opposed to the
But
planting.
the buffer too.
Oh,
Well, that's why I'm looking at Eric to,
I mean, as a landscaping plan, I'm comfortable with that language and, in the sense that usually if this were going to the zoning commission, we would get a landscaping bond. We're not getting that here. Usually things that die off within a certain period of time would need to be replaced. That's why we have the landscaping bond. So in the absence of that, this helps ensure that at least for a 3-year period, the landscaping plan is being met. So I think that this works toward the goal of making sure that the landscaping is consistent with the plan as approved here.
So are you considering the Phragmite removal as a part of the landscaping plan? Such that-
I am, but I mean, here's the challenge, Sylvia. Ultimately, a lot of this is beyond coastal jurisdiction, so I may not have jurisdiction over that. So what I do have jurisdiction over is the landscaping, because that is above the coastal jurisdiction, and that I can regulate. So I think that part of why I'm comfortable with this is it makes sure that what I'm looking at is actually within my power to regulate. I mean, ultimately, if they don't maintain the Phragmites plan, I'm not sure at the end of the day that I can enforce against the Phragmites in the way that I can enforce against anything above coastal jurisdiction. So
So I agree, but to the extent that the board feels some comfort in the sense that whatever the progress of the Phragmite removal will be reported to you.
Mhm.
So you can theoretically enforce that a report wasn't given to you.
yeah,
So I wasn't sure whether you felt that the planting report encompassed the Phragmite aspect of it.
I think based on what I've heard tonight, and what they understand what the board is looking for, and if it's not in there, I feel comfortable going back after them for it.
Would you rather have, I change it to landscaping inspection annual report, or would you rather keep it as plantings?
I don't care either way, but you may want to put in landscaping and Phragmite.
Now that's two different companies.
Doesn't
It
matter.
doesn't matter. They're going to give me a report. They're going to give me a report every year for 3 years, just detailing what we're looking at here. I don't care how many companies it is. It's going to be on them to generate a report, or more than one report, that demonstrates compliance.
Wait a second, I just need, so,
You read it, okay?
yeah, so for applicant for a minimum of 3 years, landscaping of Phragmite inspection annual report. Is it right, Phragmite inspection or Phragmite elimination?
You got a PH for the Phragmites, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's my big question.
Landscaping Phragmite instead of inspection elimination, landscaping and Phragmite.
Maybe it's two different things.
Landscaping and Phragmite remediation are sort of, again, two different, let's call it remediation. I think that's really the best way to characterize what we're doing here, okay?
So landscaping, I might have to wordsmith a little bit. Landscaping and Phragmites remediation inspection annual report. I'm gonna say annual inspection report will be provided to ZEO for a minimum of 3 years.
But let's go with that. I think that's,
Okay.
at this point, we're at 8, whatever we are. We still have another application a year. So I think we're gonna be good to go here, so.
All right.
Before we move on, I just want to say that in harmony with your purposes, supported by
DEP.
It's a safer FEMA compliant building. There's ecological improvement to the surrounding environment. And there's volunteered environmental improvements to neighboring property. Is the neighboring property part right? I thought it was just the marsh.
Well,
Well,
there's this property and
yeah.
there's adjacent property.
He owns the adjacent property, which is more.
There's an adjacent property, an adjacent property owned by the applicant.
There we go. Got it. Got it. Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, did we answer, we did the hardship, we did the harmony, we didn't specify the reductions in nonconformity, but I think we have that in the application. And I think it's not the minimum to address the hardship, but that is offset by other improvements.
Offset by other improvements.
Significant.
And then other here was reductions have been made, but that seems like a slide.
I think we just skip that.
Just skip it?
Say that because
Okay.
Well, there's significant.
financial hardship was a limited building area of the property, and then we said that there are also reductions in legal pre-existing non-conformity, just sort of.
Oh, you want it up here? Okay.
Yeah.
That's where I had it, and then I thought it was in the wrong place.
Okay. All right, so with that in mind, Oh, and the evidence presented during the public hearing and the reasons articulated by the board within the public hearing or voting session. That's always. Okay, with that in mind, would anybody like to make a motion to grant with conditions requested variances to section 4.3.1, 4.10.3 to allow for demolition of existing structures and construction of a new FEMA compliant dwelling, in-ground pool and detached garage within Connecticut River and tidal water setbacks and within the AE 11 flood zone per the site plans prepared by Indigo Land Design LLC and dated, it's dated January 12th, 2026 as revised March 12th, 2026. And the floor plans and elevations prepared by Christopher Arlt, architect, and dated March 3rd, 2026, to be stamped and signed by the ZBA chair.
Sorry, was it March 13th, I think?
Not the architectural plans.
Oh, not there, just this letter or something.
This is the variance applications
It says,
So one-
revised the 13th.
it says 3/20, so they're not all the same dates.
so is that what Kip saw the 13th and something too?
Well, this is
I don't know what.
the new variance application updated is 313.
But the plans are 3/12.
So
That's
the
all.
plan, this says, I usually look ahead of time, 3/12/2026. This is 3/3/2026. These two plans have,
Okay.
those are the dates on those plans. I saw nodding. Okay. March 3rd, 2026, to be stamped and signed by the ZBA chair. The conditions are, we just reviewed them, but do you want to go over them again?
If you would like for me to.
Does anybody feel it? We don't.
No, we don't need it.
So this-
It's
so we
on the
don't need to-
record.
We're gonna let the dead horse be.
Okay, okay. And the coastal site plan review application is approved because it is consistent with all applicable coastal policy and does not, and does include all reasonable measures to mitigate adverse impacts on both the coastal resource and future watershed use. That's the draft motion. Would anybody like to make that motion?
So moved.
That was Kip. Anybody like to second that motion?
I'll second.
Michaela. Okay. What, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None, abstaining, none, motion passed unanimously, 5-0.
Thank you.
Well, I think people appreciate your effort to really scale back and listen and prepare. Thank you for that. All right. All right, I can wrap these up.
Thank you.
That was something. It's a tough project.
Yeah.
You don't have to go through
All
the
right, so
minimum.
now, as soon as we put this away, we're gonna go on to our next case. Yeah,
Hit the bathroom while
we're gonna take a little bio break.
I drink coffee.
You're not allowed to consider that though.
I know, but it's already done. I'm just saying,
Yeah,
but I feel comfortable.
Okay,
because you have to think about that property could outlive that person. Or what could it turn into?
Oh, years.
Yeah.
So you remember? That's why I didn't vote on this.
Still great compared
Word for word.
to years ago. It's still great compared to a couple years ago.
That's all I could think of was what you said made so much sense.
So I have dry eyes that are being
You could turn those in.
overly treated.
What's that?
I have
Turn
wet
those little-
dry eyes.
Oh, little legs in.
Tearing now. I'm
Should be
like,
able to
God.
just lift them up and turn.
These
I had-
zoning issues.
I put plugs.
Yeah, yeah.
Two
Know
sets.
something.
Something today. The bottom and
Yes.
it's just too much.
It's a good day.
I've had it done before, but they had to.
all right.
Too much tearing.
No,
80% of the funeral business now.
Oh, mine
So
too.
he said, but it.
Movies about Landy.
I stuck it back in there.
We're just gonna
Okay.
take them all.
Oh,
and figure out something else.
You should be over here because you.
He said it's.
This is the new one?
Yeah,
Fix this.
No, no,
I
I had it.
all right,
I like sitting.
all right, we're gonna start the meeting up again, okay? I just put this down. All right, so now, moving on to the next case. Thank you for your patience, we went through the other case.
Nancy, before we get started, just indicate that we'll changing the seating and proceeding on this one again, just so we are on the record.
Correct. So I was gonna do that as soon as I introduced the
sorry.
case.
I'm
I
sorry.
have it written down. That's a good reminder. So the next case is case 26-2, 21 Brookside, excuse me, requesting variance to replacement of a non-conforming structure in location approved by prior variance, case 24-06, Catherine Foster applicant. This is a proposal to replace the existing non-conforming structure on the non-conforming R10 lot. The variances requested are to sections 8.87, minimum street setback. I have to drink a glass of water.
You deserve it, yeah.
25 feet required, 8.8.8 minimum rear setback, 30 feet required, 8.8.9 minimum side setback, 12 feet required. And this is a question I had for Eric. It says 9.3.1, no enlargement of a non-conforming structure unless enlarged.
I
portion
think
of
we can
complies.
eliminate that one because the structure itself was eliminated. It's no longer there. Yeah, it's no longer a non-conforming structure. It's gone. So I think that is no longer needed as a variance. We're starting from scratch with basically no new structure, with a brand new structure rather on the site. So
So does the applicant agree to amend their application to remove the requested variance for 9.3.1?
Yes, upon the advice of the zoning enforcement officer, absolutely.
Thank you. Okay,
I also just have a point of order that on the variance application form, the owner's address does not match the property card. It says 70th Street and the property card says 79th Street. So whatever the correct address is should be.
My address?
Yeah, it said on the application, it says 21 East 70th Street.
Oh, it's a text.
Is it 79? That matches the property card. So we should just change that on the variance application.
oh. Change
For
it where?
The owner's address.
Oh, on the application.
Yes.
Okay. The applicant-
It says
Yeah.
70th.
Okay, so the
It should say
applicant agrees
79.
to amend the application to change
Yeah,
70th to 79.
Correct, yes.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Now, this one I get to seated for this application will be myself, Kip Cotson, Stephanie Mickle, Michaela Pearson, and Richard Korsmeyer, our alternate, because Russ Fogg is out. We rotate and it's his turn.
Okay.
All right. With that, please present your application.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. My name is, for the record, my name is Brendan Sharkey. I'm the attorney for the applicant. And I'm joined by Dave Noe from 360 Design Plus, who is the architect on this project. And also in the gallery are Rick Calkins, who is the builder on this project, as well as Catherine Foster, who is the co-owner of the property. We're here before you today on bended knee because we needed to come back before you to expand the scope of a variance that you had previously granted for this property. I would emphasize that nothing about this application differs from the variance that you approved in 2024. We're requesting the variances and what was proposed in 2024 was for the renovation and vertical expansion of the house at 21 Brookside Avenue, which required 3 variances, setback variances, but all contained within the existing footprint of the building. The reason we're here today is because, as Mr. Calkins will attest to, and Mr. Noe, was that as the construction and the renovation got underway, it became apparent that the condition of the existing house was really beyond what was expected as far as the necessary repairs. And the work continued, the renovation work was continued, and all inspections were called in and addressed by the building department. But it became, at some point, the scale and scope of the original variance that you approved went beyond. and it ultimately, the existing structure needed to be effectively completely replaced. That's partly because the piers that support the house were, we have pictures and we'll be able to provide some testimony on this, but we're well beyond what was thought. Plus the superstructure of the building on which that was resting on the piers was also not really joists that meet any kind of current code. They were really very dilapidated, pieced together, and not safe for even the existing structure, let alone the replacement that was proposed. Again, we're not asking for any change in what was originally approved 2 years ago. We're asking for you to recognize an extension of the scope of what actually the work would be. I'll just say that for the record, before we go to Mr. Calkins and Mr. Noe, the intent of the owners was never to do this. It wasn't that the owners intended to do a tear down, not really tell you about that, but really that was their intent all along. As will be evidenced from some of the in progress pictures, every effort was made to retain the existing structure to the extent possible. But eventually it just became impossible to do. Secondly, the real mistake that was made was that when it became evident to the town that, and specifically to Eric, that and the zoning enforcement officer, that the scope of the work was extending beyond what was originally approved for the variance. Eric sent an email to the owners alerting them to this fact, and that was as of September of last year. And that was not acted upon immediately when that email went out. I think in part it was because at that same time, the building department was arriving for inspections and reviewing what was actually happening in the field. And I just think the owners didn't appreciate the importance and significance of what Eric was communicating to them until finally, I think there was a realization that no further inspection should take place by the building department, because we needed to come back to you.
Okay.
So the owners are apologizing for the fact that they did not act promptly on that when first advised of that. And that's again why the application. But again, I would emphasize that there's no change in the design that was originally approved. There's no change in the footprint. There's no change in the variances that were granted. We're still, everything that was originally anticipated and approved is still the case with this. The last thing I'll just say is that we have in the record, I think you have this, the staff received 3 letters of support from abutting neighbors. There's a 4th actually from 24 Gorton Avenue that we received. I'm not sure it's in your record.
I only saw 2.
One came today.
Yeah, the addresses are for 24 and 26 Gorton Ave.
26, and I have 24.
Yeah, that's the one I believe that we was not sent to the staff. It was sent to us, but not to the staff. And the other 2 approval or letters of support were from 27 and 29 Brookside.
Do you have copies? Submit today?
I know that according to Craig, 3 of those 4 are in the record. He received them at town hall. The one I should have made a copy of, and I didn't bring it.
Craig should have put them on the website as well, so we can probably just pull them up on the website if we can do that. So,
sorry, I should have actually made copies. So with that, if I could,
got 2 anyway, that Brookside.
I'm sorry, that's my fault. I should have had extra copies available for you. At this point, I just wanted to bring Rick Calkins, who is the builder, and have Dave Noe kind of walk through what was discovered on site. And,
So real quick, I think I'd like to show, so after the last hearing, we produced our construction drawings for permit. And as Brendan said, the intention was always to replace these piers in place. And essentially shore up the structure. I think we had talked about that during the hearing at the time. So during these, as part of these construction drawings that were submitted for approval, just like to show the,
You wanna come over here? You can see better.
oh, I'm sorry. You want me to move it? Yes.
He's gonna move over.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
because he's seated for this case and he's the other seat.
Let me just find that sheet. Like the last one was best. I know there's a pier up here drawing in here. Oh. Okay. No, it's there.
I think you grabbed my file.
Yeah, they're sitting right here.
Yeah, that's my file. This is the.
It's the live one.
Yeah.
Okay.
You see the foundation plan?
Foundation plan.
Yeah, with all the piers. That's what I am. There we go. So as part of the package for the permit drawings, you can see we had proposed to replace all these piers in place. And because there's probably 30 of them in there. And in the effort with the new design and the new structure up above, we were gonna try and install these through the floor underneath, some different ways to get there. So that was always our initial goal to produce that. But then as we got into the project, and Rick can talk to this, you can see here, this picture here shows, a brick pier, a wood tree, stacked stones, and then a little bit of concrete over there.
Great.
Creative.
But you can see, that there's all sorts of cuts in these beams. So, that presents safety issues for shoring it up during construction and replacing those piers in place.
David, before you switch that picture too, it was also pointed out that if you look closely in this picture, there are sonotubes there, which were meant to be used to form this, and this is what was intended to be installed as the replacement. So
I think.
Excuse me, I need to catch up with some basics here. What were you planning to leave in place originally?
So originally, the structure was gonna stay here. So the first floor would be there. The roof was gonna come off. We were gonna reframe the roof, replace the dormers that were existing.
Mhm.
And then come down here and re-support the structure
Okay, so the idea was to leave the first floor intact
with alterations, moving walls and.
with some alterations,
Yeah.
same footprint, but basically leave the first floor intact, but you had to go in. I mean, I see what you needed to deal with there, but you're gonna also leave the second floor, or you're gonna build a new second floor?
Second floor framing would have been reframed
Would have been
because it was from the code standpoint and safety wise. I think
Mhm.
it was 2x6 floor joists. in there.
30 inches.
Oh,
30 inches on center.
Yeah.
It was an expansion of the second floor too.
Dormers, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
The second floor was gonna be bigger.
Okay, so
if
you
I
got,
may, that was what the original variance was for, to enable the second story to be, instead of a quarter story,
Mhm.
as it was, to increase it to a half story, which
Okay.
was still compliant with our regs, but in order to do that, there was additional internal shoring up that was anticipated.
okay,
Yeah, that's,
We did-
because he'd only started in November, so he's got a little background.
Right,
Yeah.
understood. Right.
Yeah, we went from a gabled roof to a gambrel.
Mhm.
So that's what increased the volume on the same footprint.
okay, but you were gonna try to leave as much of it in place as possible.
Yeah.
So you ended up having to wipe out the whole thing.
Well, Rick will show you,
Well-
it didn't,
Okay,
it wasn't
go
a full
ahead.
swoop of.
What we tried to do is, address situations as they arose.
And first thing was the front of the house was at grade. And building code is you have to be 18 inches above grade. So going back to David, where the piers were in the front of the house, which is this area here, we ended up doing a retaining wall across the front and down 10 foot on either side. And that had a haunch in it, so we could set our floor joists inside and still have concrete barrier to exterior to retain soil and maintain our 18-inch separation from soil to meet building code. So did that thinking we could take some other things out. And then what we ran into was substructure that would not support the second floor, would not support the new dormers. It basically fell into a code situation, with Connecticut, the 502-1, where it states, and I have copies if you would like, it states that you cannot do alterations or renovations to a house, which is going to cause the substructure to fail. So not support.
Good idea.
Pretty much.
Construction date estimate on that?
The date?
Yeah, when was it originally
Approximately
made?
1900.
Around 1900.
Yeah.
It was built in 1890,
Okay.
and nothing has been done with
No,
Okay.
looks like.
it.
So
So that was the applicant speaking.
Yes, that was Catherine Foster. Yeah.
right.
So, yeah, you can see here that, Rick was attempting to cut in those dormers at the time, prior to getting to here. So it wasn't like they came in with, an excavator
Yeah.
and demolished the home. It was selectively, removed to allow for the construction.
Nancy,
So-
can I just make sure, I'm just looking online and these particular photographs aren't in the set that's online, so I just want to make sure they're.
Oh.
Yeah, we
Yep.
should add those to the record.
Those are new exhibits.
How many photographs are there? I see 1,
Seven.
2, 7 photographs of the
Yes.
existing dwelling under construction.
Would you like to submit
Previous,
um,
not existing.
the code?
Oh, yeah. I figured that.
Original.
Original building, yes, the original, good catch. Stephanie.
You just need one copy.
You only need one copy for the record? Would anybody?
Yeah, the next one, the code section that he was just referencing, you'd like to put that in the record.
Okay, so I'll make this, you mentioned this first, so I should make this exhibit 1 and we'll make the other pictures 1, 2 through 8.
This is another good example of, this was a brand new deck that we were attempting to keep from the beginning, which obviously didn't make it.
So every time, we have pictures, so we took the front section off of the house here. And we excavated out for the new retaining foundation and things. We had building inspector out for our footing inspections and our steel inspections as we poured. Thinking that we could go back in, but there was really no way to devise to get. We couldn't put something under the structure because there was no way to hold the structure up, to support it, to safely get underneath it or to cut it. And if we cut it out, the structure's gone. So I would have loved to have gone in there with an excavator and torn it down, and we would have been in and out of there in 4 hours and in a dumpster. But anyway, so we systematically took down sections of the house and put the structure in, and then we put the piers in, and they have a line there as well.
Now,
So-
why is that? Why did you do it piece by piece?
So that,
Well, we weren't trying to tear the whole thing down.
That was the.
So you were
original
thinking you might be able to save some if you went
Right.
piece by
Have
piece
it.
by
Right.
piece.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've been doing this since 1977, and as a carpenter and as a builder is 1983. So, and I have known the building inspector for years, being in the same industry. So, it just got worse and worse. There was nothing that could be saved.
Is it safe to say you couldn't really shore this up safely?
No, not at all. I'm surprised the building didn't collapse with more than 5 people in it at any time.
wow.
Yeah.
So let me ask a question. So you ended up taking it all down, so there's nothing left of what you started to do, or?
Which was,
I guess my main question is very similar to Eric's question, is like, if you're starting from scratch, can you change the position of the building somewhat to reduce some nonconformity?
Well, can I just answer that, Rick? The answer is yes, in theory, although we were trying to be true to the existing footprint.
Yeah.
It turned out, though, in the course of replacing the piers, Rick actually did place the piers in such a way that it pulled the corner of the house off the property line. If you remember the original
Yeah.
application, the original design was right on the property line. That was the original footprint.
0.3 or
That was
feet or
the
something.
pre-existing non-conformity.
That's
Yeah.
exactly right. And so he actually moved it slightly to get it put further back. And I mentioned this in the application.
This is the view from the street looking in at the house. And this right here is the front porch laying on the dirt. And so this is where we had started here. And I had the surveyor come out and stake the property. So we know where we were and we're not putting things on other people's properties and things of that nature. And so in measuring over, this front corner here was either just on or into the neighboring property.
Hmm.
So when we did the pour here, I didn't want to get in trouble with the zoning officer. And I, no pun intended, and I moved that corner back 12 inches to make sure that, what we're putting in the ground, the concrete was not over the property line on somebody else's property. So we kind of did our best. It by systematically taking the house down as we did, it incurred probably twice as much cost to the customer, or maybe 3 times as much cost than a demolition job.
Yeah.
But
it means that you have started some of the work. So if it's not like you can just wholesale move the existing house to a new location that would be more compliant.
So that structure is no longer there?
right, this was our first conundrum, was this porch area and being on dirt. And so that was the same elevation as the
Mhm.
floor of the house. So that's why we excavated out that area and built a retaining wall, if you will, to keep because if not, we would have had to lower the grade of the property, and this grade matched up with the neighboring property.
So what's
caused a
left?
pond.
What's left?
What's left?
Yeah.
The mailbox?
No, but it's like you said, you put in a retaining wall. So that retaining wall is gone.
It was a foundation that acted as a retaining wall to the soil for the
Okay.
elevation.
So my question is, could you, now that you're starting from scratch, could you just, like right now, that building is like right on the property line, and it looks like all that buildable area you have further away. Could you just move the building to more in the center of the
Well,
property?
the answer to that is no, because it was also a condition of our variance.
No, but we're talking new, when you're talking.
I
new
know,
thing, yeah.
but we're keeping it as a seasonal use on piers, which meant that we were keeping the existing septic system.
Yeah.
And to move it would have meant changing the septic system.
Well, that's a good reason, but I'd say, so that's why.
Yeah, so we
You
weren't,
can't move it anywhere closer, or you just can't move it in the middle. Where's the limitation?
the septic is, and the connections to the septic is it's all kind of keeping that all in place. So that was the intent all along. So if we're gonna move the house to a completely different spot on the lot or something, that would have required, starting over from scratch with ledge light.
Okay.
Now,
And-
you have in text that you moved it a foot, but in the table, or I'm getting it somewhere, 889 side setback 12 is required. You're going from 0.3 feet to 0.3 feet. You don't reflect any foot motion. And second, I was there today, and there's a stake in the ground with the orange tape on top. I assume that's the property line?
Outside of the large maple tree.
Yeah, right outside the tree. And so that side of the house is, boy, that's right there. But then you have these units I don't know if there's splits or ACs or some heaters or something that actually look like more than maybe 6 or 8 inches wide. I don't, they might be over the property line.
Property line flares out to the rear. So,
So
where
it's not a
those-
straight line right
where
there.
those condensers are mounted to the foundation or the building on the back, there's actually 3 feet over there, a little over 3
I'll have
feet.
to, can you show me
This
down
is,
there?
this is the, original
Below.
survey. This isn't the survey as it is now. So this is the 0.3 feet that originally was. This is not the survey as it is today. So this was brought down by a foot.
Oh, okay, you're saying,
This is our original package.
So from this side, I'm talking about this way.
On this back corner here. See, this is the property line here. This upper line, and then this is the house line down here. So there is 3 foot back there. And I think I spoke to, is it Craig, your
Correct.
assistant? Craig. I called into Craig to ask about the location of those. We were allowed half.
Yeah.
In that zone, you're allowed to be as close as 3 feet to the property line, 75% reduction, 75% reduction. So if it is truly 3 feet, then it meets it. We're gonna need an as-built that shows that you are in fact where you say you are.
We do have an as-built from,
Right here.
Bard, I think.
Yes.
Okay, so when she goes to sign this at the end of the day there, make sure that she is signing the one that actually shows physically where things are on the ground.
Right.
Because all we have in the record right now is your original survey.
Yep.
Which is not an accurate reflection of where things physically are on the ground
Right.
today.
No, I had Ken Picard come down and he did an as-built.
so where is that, you just don't have it with you now, but there, it exists. The as-built exists, but you just don't have it with you now?
Did you?
No, it wasn't because we were trying to make the deadline.
Okay,
It wasn't
okay,
being had.
okay. Okay, I thought it's up.
So it exists and you will submit it, but it's not here now.
Correct.
And it will show that it's moved a foot,
Yes.
because that was another question you had.
Yeah, that was, I mean, my memo sort of reflects
We
that.
can't move it much more than a foot, but a foot is moved.
Right.
Okay.
And it's still gonna be on.
The front corner here, because you can see that
Foundation.
is
It's a combination of.
very, very close to that.
So at some point in the application then, whenever I got this, I wish I could pull this up now. You need to reflect that in your table or in the data.
Variances you're
right?
requesting. You see
In the
the point
variance,
to this.
there, thank you.
You're saying it's more than, it says 0.3 feet and it still says 0.3 feet, but you're saying it's not 1.3 feet.
Yeah, I mean, that's, we need, whatever the
This is
final
Stephanie's
number
question.
is, if you've got the as-built on it, you need to amend your application so that it reflects whatever the final measured distance is that is on that as-built. Okay.
This thing right here.
Yeah, that's what they're talking about.
Yes, to your question, because that dirt was so high. Rick, you might be able to speak to this better than me, but this portion here is on the foundation, but then it becomes piers to the back. So it is open up here, but to retain the soil, this was built on foundation. Am I correct in that, right?
Yes.
Okay. So if I get this correct, so you're explain that you couldn't follow the last variance because of structural issues. You are now starting to replace the existing building with a new building. And you've already set the foundation, so it's a foot further away from the property line that was 0.3, now it's 1.3 feet. And there's an as-built survey which shows that, but you don't have it yet, but you will submit it because that's what I would need to sign for approval.
Yes.
You're saying everything about this, you had to make some minor amendments because of foundation issues. Everything about this is going to fit the variances you already got with the plans that you had. There's just an adjustment.
The architectural plans will be the same, everything will be the same except for the location.
Yep, correct. So if you could, perhaps you could make it a condition of,
Yes,
approval that
Yeah.
we'll submit that.
so what would we call it? We call it the as-built prepared by,
Licensed surveyor. Would that be an eight? That'd be an eight too also, wouldn't it?
An agent survey?
Yes, but I mean, for your purposes, an A2 survey is gonna have a whole bunch of other things that are not necessarily relevant to this application. But again, you need a survey that demonstrates the issues that are in this application have been addressed, okay?
Yes, we have.
Do you know the name of the surveyor, by the way? Is that
It's on Ken card.
Let me just,
Capture that. Give Amy.
Ken, the card.
Yep.
So condition of
Colchester,
approval would be to submit the as-built survey prepared by Ken Picard
Do you want
surveyor.
it in PDF form or do you want it in?
well, she's gonna need to sign it.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, fine.
And do we need his seal on it?
Yes.
He stamped it, but in the PDFs, it doesn't come by.
I understand. I would love it in electronic form too, so we can put that into our electronic record.
Right.
But the one that she needs to sign
Yeah.
needs to be in paper and have his seal actually on it so that she can
Okay.
sign the signs.
All right, so I can, he sent the PDF to us. I can go up to his office and get a copy made. with
That
his-
would be great.
his
Could you
seal
just show us the property line again, the
Yeah,
square,
we're having trouble
rectangle,
seeing it
whatever it
online.
is? We're just.
So this
confused.
is the northerly boundary
Right.
coming here.
Yeah.
This is our 0.3 feet existing. This is the west property line.
If he's writing on it, then you can make an exhibit.
Yes.
You're more than welcome to have. That's the southern here. And then that's the eastern line.
Okay, and then the house,
So the house,
as you see it now.
again, this was the existing conditions.
Yeah.
So, but same footprint. The house was here, came down. This was a deck that we attempted to save. So it's kind of like this little L shape.
So the deck is going away?
The deck is going away and a bluestone patio will be put in its place.
And where is that maple tree and the post I was looking at?
Right up here.
It's here,
It's actually shown on the plan right there.
Stephanie, it's here.
And this one's got removed, right?
That got removed.
And this
That
was
was,
removed.
These trees were growing
It was rotted.
underneath. They were starting to grow underneath the
Oh.
house, the roots.
So I don't know what the scale is, but
It's
I mean, it looks
usually,
pretty
20
far.
20 feet per inch. On a
Well, on this,
survey scale.
you
This
know,
one's a 1
uh,
to 10. This is a 1 to 10.
1 to 10.
so from the line, the tree is not, it's in from the property line. That post was just outside.
Well, there's an
It's
iron,
stake, not post, stake.
an iron pin here and an iron pin there.
And the iron pin are property line corners, like, you know.
Yeah, that's
You know, the-
old
Oh,
survey.
that's
We're
it.
talking about,
Exactly, yes, sir.
That's this one.
Yep.
Stephanie, did you want to look at this picture?
great deck,
Yeah. it doesn't
L-shaped
show
house.
Oh,
the-
there's a little post.
The,
There's a little,
going
Orange
in.
post.
You
is
have one
this a
going
little
in.
stake you're talking about?
Nancy, would you mind just numbering that particular one?
Yeah,
Just-
well,
While we're
this exhibit
discussing it,
too.
yeah.
I'll write on the back.
The stake she's talking about, right?
Just a picture.
Is this a
The
clear
picture of the
picture?
house.
And then, can we label this exhibit 3 since I'm
Sure.
looking at
One
it?
second, this.
What's the back? I wrote it on the back, so no picture right on
I
it.
say, is it back of the house?
It's hard to say it's the back.
So,
It's from the
You-
street.
Yeah, this is street view.
View from south.
We need
View
new
from
pictures.
south,
That was
east.
one of
This
the-
is from the
New house
street.
pictures.
That's from the east.
One at a time, folks.
That's
East,
the
south,
stake
east.
there, yes.
Stephanie, does that answer your question?
Uh-uh.
It's, this is the street, this is a tree, this is a stake, the property line.
But Nancy, can we just verbalize that exhibit 2 is the,
Picture of the house from the street.
Okay, let's get exhibit 3 since I'm looking at that
Mhm.
next. If you don't mind.
Okay, I'll write it on the front here.
That's a picture of
That's
the
what
back
you used
of
to
the
look.
house.
It's a side.
Side of the house, okay, thank you.
Let me submit this one.
Yeah.
Would you like this one for structural purpose?
Well, we're gonna name them all, but I-
You're gonna get them all into us, as you You indicated you were gonna do a
This is
separate
from the
picture.
south.
We just numbered those because.
That's the south, yeah. She's referencing it.
So you said that deck is gonna be replaced with a bluestone patio?
Yeah,
Correct.
Pervious.
Yes,
Okay, so that'll be.
And the reason,
Down
it would be
more?
on, it would be on ground grade
On
level.
ground.
the reason these are gonna remain on piers, that part of the building's gonna be on piers still is because of the height
Well,
involved.
the problem being is the septic system's behind the building, so
Okay.
we have to be above, we can't be below grade.
Okay.
How does
That makes
the
sense.
sewer
I
project
might have
impact
to
this?
submit a picture from, that I photographed
Okay.
somehow. Can I
We're
just
gonna
show
call
you
it
what I'm
Exhibit
looking
9.
at? And
Yeah, that-
tell me, this is,
Well, I got exhibit 9 at the site plan.
is
Must that
this,
be
this
different?
Oh,
is what
no,
I'm
no, this
looking
is
at.
Exhibit
This
10, right.
stake
Do you want me to take this off now?
right
Can
along
you
the
write
line
Exhibit
of the
9 on
house.
there?
That's sort of a visual for
Yeah.
us, but right behind this tree,
Okay,
there's,
that is not a
there's-
property line stake.
that is.
Is that what
that
you're
actually
saying?
Should be, yeah, that should be, there should be the pipe right there.
Nice.
Yep, that should be the pipe.
That's Exhibit
This-
9.
No, because the maple tree's on your property and this is almost like inside that
trees
maple.
are-
There are two maple trees.
Please,
That's really
one at a
sad.
time.
So
yeah.
sad.
Wait,
Of my-
Richard, you can't talk.
Yeah, that was me. I was being
Okay,
obnoxious.
okay.
For the record, that maple tree in the picture that you're referring to is not on the property.
Not on the property. It's right here. So you are correct, that is the iron pin.
So Stephanie's photograph, which she's gonna email to Craig, is Exhibit 10.
Okay.
Can I see?
Uh-huh. So we pass that now.
Okay, what was your question, Craig?
So I'm just saying, it's close, like, you know, I'm just eyeballing
Well,
it
no,
and
actually, this, if you look at this map, that corner is touching the property line. This was the old existing house.
Uh-huh.
And that's, we, we cited it, we ran a string down it even, old Indians or whatever, but, we found out that, that it was on such close proximity. I had them, we pulled it 12 inches away from that line.
so that's the property line.
Right,
You
right.
can't really see in the back, but the
But it looks very
compressors, you
close.
said?
It looks
Compressors,
really
it's
close.
very close,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, the plans almost make it look a little distance away,
Yeah,
I think, but
This, the rear
it's,
corner here.
you've got that
didn't
0.3
move at
feet
all.
anyway. I
And
don't know about 1.3. And do you want to pass it down since everybody?
Yeah, it's about 3 feet.
I don't know.
She was just saying that this corner of the property on her photograph looks like a little closer than
1.3 feet,
1.3, but
but it's
it's hard to tell.
exactly
because it's
straight property line. You said it flared out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
so that corner would be the closest corner.
the front,
Yeah,
That's right.
exactly.
there's more property at the rear.
Okay, so, so getting back to your application. So what you're asking for is a new variance for the existing building except for 9.3.1. To say, because it's a new building, but it's gonna be 1 foot closer, farther away from the property line, but everything else is gonna remain the same. And you had to do it because of the construction difficulties.
That's right.
And is the wording changed in the sense that it was a rehab of an existing property where we kept it? And
That's the reason why we're here.
That's
Yeah.
why you're-
right, that's what I thought.
The-
Okay.
I think I don't have it in front of me, or I did have it in front of me, is that the application before said the hardship was that it was a historic structure pre-existing in the setback. And so the point is, we're not changing that structure, but it's still in the setback. It's but the point is, we can't move it further away from the property line because of the septic system.
Now, can I just ask, this property is probably part of the sewer project, isn't it?
It will be,
So,
if the sewer happens.
okay, I was under is it Old Colony or is it
Well,
actually
this
Old
is Old
Colony?
Colony.
Okay, I was under the impression that Old Colony had already started work.
They haven't started work yet. I actually represent Old Colony.
Okay.
And it has not started.
Okay,
There's still some,
okay, so you're still going forward under the premise that you may need to have that.
that's right.
ability.
And it will remain seasonal.
Okay.
Until a sewer.
Okay.
Does go through.
Okay.
At which time we'll
Sure.
its use will change.
And the neighbors are okay with this? They're all supportive.
We do.
So the hardship is the fact that you can't move it any further away from the property line because of the septic system. But you need to replace the building because of it's structurally unsound.
Correct. It's the same variance that we had asked for previously with a minor improvement from the
Right.
previous one. We're just back to you because
No, I'm just
Couldn't
capturing.
save the structure. You had to-
we could not
You had
save
to
the structure
abandon
as
it.
we thought,
Yeah.
as we anticipated.
Okay. Sounds pretty straightforward to me. I don't, does anybody have any more questions?
Does the town, I mean, are there any penalties or anything for?
I mean, I could have brought an enforcement action or done whatever, but the goal here is compliance. I don't want to.
No, I didn't know. It's just your
I
purview
mean,
was the thing. It's not a.
In September, I said, this is a problem, please address it.
Uh-huh.
5 months went by, it was not addressed, so I wrote them a letter that said, look, if you don't come in for a variance, I'm going to have to issue a cease and desist order. And that's what sort of prompted the rush to come in for variance at that point in time, because they didn't want a cease and desist order. So there's no penalty beyond that, other than they had to stop everything and come in here and get their approvals and that there's, I guess, some penalty for the fact that they were stopped from construction for some period of time. But there's no fine, there's nothing of that sort. But again,
They're trying to accommodate.
the goal is to achieve compliance. So as long as I'm seeing them trying to achieve compliance, I'm going to step back and let that happen. It's only when I don't see efforts at achieving compliance that I then have to sort of escalate and take further steps. So again, I wrote a letter saying, really, I'm out of patience, take care of it. They came in, they took care of it, and then we're just gonna let it happen, okay?
All right, so you've answered my question about why you can't move it any further. So if no one else has any other questions, the public comments, would anybody like to speak in favor of this application?
Somebody hiding
Again-
behind the desk.
Against this application or comment on this application? No public comments. All right. So with that in mind, would anybody like to make a motion to close the public hearing for case 26-221 Riverside?
Madam Chair, someone,
Oh,
before you
wait,
do,
yeah.
did you want to number these other pictures? You had said you.
They were referenced
They
in our
represent-
Now,
conversation.
they're submitted though, we will.
Yeah, I didn't know if you wanted to know.
We will number them. We reserved 4 through 7.
Right.
8. For that, we just hadn't done it yet. Yeah, you can put it on the table. I'll do it before we leave. Thank you very much. And.
Sorry, I asked about that.
Yeah, this-
Yeah, we labeled.
10, maybe.
No,
I have
that's
to
mine.
send that. Well, wasn't my.
Stephanie has to
my-
take
Yours
it.
is- yours is 10.
My, 10.
Yours is 10.
Okay.
Okay, all right, so. Would anybody like to make the motion to close the public hearing for case?
I will.
That was Michaela.
Yes.
Anyone like to second that?
Second.
Richard? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Abstaining? None. The motion passed unanimously 5-0. Again, same rules apply after the close of public hearing. So I think we've discussed the hardship is that they can't move the building any further away from the property line because of the septic system. So.
Yeah.
And that they had to replace the building because it was structurally unsound.
Yeah, all the other variances, we'd already granted them.
Yeah.
We just have to grant them that they're exempted from having to rehab the existing structure because
Right.
it's proved not to be
Right.
possible.
All right, so there is a 1 foot reduction in legal pre-existing nonconformity on the side setback. The agreed conditions of approval is that they're going to submit the as-built plan by surveyor Picard.
Yeah, a signed as-built survey created by Mr. Ken Picard, licensed surveyor.
Okay,
So I deliver that to the zoning office?
Yes.
yes. It's in harmony with the intent and purpose of zoning regulations because it improves safety. And no, okay, that's it. It's supported by the neighbors. That's the other reason. And the evidence presented during the public hearing and the reasons articulated by the board within the public hearing or voting session. Okay, so with that in mind, and does everyone agree with that? Okay, with that in mind, I'm gonna like to make a motion to grant with conditions, the requested variances to sections 8.8.7, 8.8.8, 8.8.9, not 9.3.1, to allow replacement of a non-conforming structure in location approved by prior variance in case
Did they have to fix the application?
that we already did that during the
That's the
hearing.
condition.
You
So
don't have
that's,
to do it during
okay.
motion. Okay. To allow the placement of a non-conforming structure in location approved by prior variance, case 24-06, per the property survey prepared, this is what I'm gonna say, that per the updated property as-built survey. For the updated as-built survey prepared by Picard Landscape Land Surveying. We don't have a date for that yet.
No, you don't, no.
And the floor plans and elevations prepared by 360 Design Plus LLC and dated May 22, 2024. And stamped and signed by the ZBA chair. And so the conditions are to submit the
As built.
as built, yeah, you can say it again.
Yeah, a signed as-built survey created by Mr. Ken Picard, licensed surveyor, must be submitted.
To be signed and to stamp and signed by the ZBA chair. Okay, I don't have any other thoughts on the motion. Does anyone else have any thoughts on the motion? Would anybody like to make that motion?
I'm so moved.
Yes,
Second.
Richard. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None abstaining, none, the motion passed unanimously 5-0. Thank you, sorry for you had so much trouble with your house, but hopefully. it all works out.
That's quite a looking foundation, man. That's as hokey as it
I've ever
gets.
seen.
That's wow.
Okay, so quickly moving on.
You want to keep this area easier, more easily?
No, it's just gone upstairs. Do you want it? Do you want it?
I have it packed in here.
Either way.
Whatever, I'll leave it for you. They both did a good job.
Okay, so we should fold this up and put it in the case file.
Okay.
Yeah,
sure.
All right,
Tidy.
now, receipt and setting of public hearings for new applications. Currently, there's already one new case scheduled for April 16th, regular ZBA meeting, which was received in February. That's 302 Furry Road. And as of yesterday, there are two. As of yesterday, 2 additional cases have been submitted for receipt and scheduling. One is 181 Fossil Coast Road. The applicants are seeking to elevate a non-conforming dwelling on a non-conforming C30 lot, 4 feet on a new foundation. It appears to be a complete application, so they will receive it today and suggest that we schedule it for the public hearing April 16th, 2026. Everyone agree with that? Okay. Then there's 30 Mile Creek Road, which was submitted just very recently. The applicants seek to expand a non-conforming structure on a non-conforming RU40 lot. Key information is still missing. The staff is working with the applicant to complete the application. So I think we'll receive today, but schedule that public hearing for the May 21st, 2026 meeting. That's what I discussed with Craig.
Yeah, they have yet to make their peace with Ledgelight. Ledgelight's not even sure that they're going to be able to make their peace with Ledgelight because the lot is so small and they haven't even started soils testing on it. So
Could take a while.
yeah, I'm not optimistic that this is actually ever going to get heard because I'm not sure they're ever going to get Ledgelight approval. But let's put it out for May and see where we are in 2 months and take it from there.
Okay, thank you so much. And last thing on the agenda, and I think everyone's too tired to think about it, is discuss potential ZBA recommendations for the zoning commission for the updated of the old land zoning regulations phase 2. Now, I suggest it's a monumental task. So I suggest that we break it down into sections. And maybe what we do is at some point in time, we can either have a subgroup or a breakout session to focus mainly first on the ZBA section. There's a section of regulations that affect ZBA.
Yeah.
So it's really appropriate that we provide some input into that. I think that's no question about that. So I thought what I could do is I sent out some information. Let's forget most of what I sent you. And then just focus on the section that's the ZBA section. And then we can talk about, people want to have it discussed at this meeting, or do people want to have a little breakout session?
We should have a special meeting for that, don't you think?
I'm fine with that, if other people are fine with that.
Well,
think
it's
so.
because these are so long
Yeah.
and that's also so long. I mean, it just seems like if we're gonna have a clear focused attention, we should have a special meeting.
Okay, so we'll try to work out a special meeting date. We can do it right now, pick a date, or
Might as well.
we're all together.
Nancy,
separate.
just so you know, I'm going to miss April. I'm going to be out
Miss
of
April?
town in
Okay.
April.
Will you be here in May?
Yes,
Because two of us are missing May.
I'll be here in May.
Okay, awesome, great. So let's see. We could do it. We probably, if we want to do it sooner rather than later, because the zoning commission is going to want our feedback sooner rather than later.
I can't do next.
This is something that's gonna be going on for the next 6, 7, 8 months, so
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't worry that you're not gonna get it in on time.
Okay,
But I
So-
also,
I'm fairly open the week of April 6th. If other
I'm
people,
not here.
oh, that's right, you're on for all of April?
I'm gone from the 6th to the 19th.
Okay, so maybe like, how about the last week in April?
Yeah.
27th to the
Um,
30th, or
I can't do the 27th, it's town meeting commission.
how about the 28th, 29th, or 30th of
Yeah.
April?
30th.
All 3 days or one of the 3?
Oh, just.
All
three.
What do you think?
Does the
All
Tuesday,
three.
Wednesday, or Thursday make a difference to
All of
you?
those are-
They're fine by me.
Nick?
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, tell me one more time. Sorry.
It's the 28th, 29th, or 30th.
28th is not good for me, and actually, I could probably do the 29th or the 30th, but I prefer the 30th if that's.
Okay, well, 30th
Thursday?
is a Thursday, so we only need a small conference room because they're not gonna have the public.
Yeah, we go upstairs.
Yeah, so.
Oh, as long as we can reserve it.
Yeah, that's something, so I'll probably,
Tentatively,
Can we use what?
well, tentatively
Upstairs room?
try to
we have to be.
what,
schedule.
what time would you like it to start?
That's where they all used to be.
Say that again,
We
Eric?
just
What
signed.
time should we start? You can start the meeting whenever you want. Do you want to start it at 6:30 again, or is it?
6:30 is pretty reasonable time, as long as we can get the room, and if not, we'll adjust accordingly. So tentatively, we're thinking of Thursday, April 30th at 6:30 in a small conference room, and we'll adjust if needed, if it's not available.
Okay.
Okay,
Nancy, would you like me to attend?
I think that would be good, especially the section on zoning commission. I'm not zoning commission, ZBA, because it's regulations about us. And we need to make sure that our.
Tied to that, going out to the printer tomorrow are the new regulations, the phase 1 regulations that are effective April 1st. So some of you may want hard paper copies. I will have 30 of them printed out. If you would like a hard paper copy, let me know and I will get it to you. If you're okay with an electronic version, we can make that happen as well. But, obviously I asked for 30 copies. That is enough to give each of my zoning commission members, each of my ZBA members a paper copy if they'd like it. But I know not everybody actually would care for one. So just let me know one way or the other, or let Craig know one way or the
I
other.
like hard.
How many
copy.
pages would that be?
Can we
About
just do like section 8?
20,
9,
50?
Maybe.
It's 217 pages.
Oh, okay.
7D, right? Not 17?
270.
270? Oh, wow.
Yeah, you know,
But I'll say,
It's the regular.
Yeah, I said
bid,
30
yeah.
days. When you-
Yeah.
binder.
So can we just do a sections?
You can have whatever you'd like, but I mean,
See,
the ones that I'm printing,
Printed already.
Yeah, you already have 30.
I have print 30 full sets that I'm gonna have up in my office to give to people who need them.
I would
I'll
like.
take one.
Yeah, I would like one too, because, when you're, it's a temporary, because it's gonna be changing. But when we're working, I like to have a hard copy and,
That's fine. I understand. And
Yeah,
you're,
okay.
you're entitled to a hard copy.
all
If
right.
you'd like a hard copy, you will get a hard
All
copy.
right.
So we'll just go to your office and ask for it, they'll hand it to us. That's the best way to get
Yeah,
it.
they're just going to the printer tomorrow. So
Oh,
they're,
okay.
they're not up there ready to get. What I can have Craig do is, when they come back to us from the printer, send an email around saying
Yes.
the new regs are up in the office. If you would like one, please come by and get one, or let us know. I guess we can mail it to you. but they're gonna be expensive to mail, so I'd rather you come in and get it. if We can do that, okay?
Yeah, let's see.
That sounds perfect. The other question I have is, if we're gonna have a special meeting, why don't we just prioritize what we're gonna discuss? So first would be the section on the ZBA. But then we would like, if we have more time, and we're still up to it, we wanna discuss a section on flood zones and nonconformity. That's
What number is the flood zone?
the numbers have
They don't-
changed.
it's all-
Everything's shifted. That's why I want the paper copy.
But I'm saying, so I think, and priorities in my mind, it's the CBA section, the flood zone section, and then the nonconformity section, because I think those are the ones that need the most work.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll work on it as far as we can do. All right,
And we'll have another meeting before that meeting
oh, yeah.
also to discuss pages or sections we want to focus on.
Yeah, hear them out at the next meeting.
If I don't get.
All right, so, that's my thoughts on the section on that part of the agenda. Just remind people to give me a heads up if you're gonna miss a meeting. Thank you, Michaela, for saying you're gonna miss a meeting. And then the correspondence is basically, Eric told you what that is that the phase one has been approved starting on April 1st. And with that in mind, would anybody like to make the motion to, there's no other discussion topic. If anyone would like to make a motion to approve or modify the minutes or approve the minutes for the February 19th, 2026 meeting. And no amendments, we want to just approve it. I have no amendments. I thought you did a very good succinct job. Anyone like to make the motion?
So moved.
Michaela,
Second.
second. Kip? All in favor?
Aye.
Abstaining, opposed, not, sorry, opposed, none, abstaining, none, motion passing as 5-0. And if there's nothing else, would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Michaela, Kip? All those?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, none, abstaining, none, motion passing as 5-0.
Sure, there were 9.
We're all.
9